Good evening. I'd like to call our regular business meeting to order and ask the treasurer to call the roll.
President Baker.
Present.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Vice President Cole.
Present.
Ms. Gibbs.
Here.
Mr. Ragland.
Here.
Ms. Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I'd like to ask Jimmy Beal up to the podium, please. And she's going to bring some students with her, and I'm going to ask her to introduce them, and then they will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So after she has concluded the introductions, please be upstanding. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jimmy Beal, and I'm a counselor with Columbus City Schools, and I have several students with me who are from different schools. Grace and Hattie and Quinn are from Columbus Gifted Academy, and Carrie is from Whetstone.
Very
And they're
good.
here representing our LGBTQ community.
Very good. Everyone, please be upstanding, and they will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, what I'll do next is briefly read through our agenda, just so we know the work we have before us this evening. We have a number of board recognitions after we adopt the agenda. We will then take public testimony, after which we will hear from our direct reports. After that, we will consider our consent agenda, after which we will adjourn into executive session. Is there a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Adair.
Yes.
President Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Vice President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs.
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, colleagues. Our first recognition is for National Principals Month. And as we all know, in addition to the teacher in the classroom, leadership by principals is critical to the success of our students. And in honor of the work that our principals do, I would like the following people to come up to the podium. Elementary School Principal Andrew Smith, who is the treasurer of the Columbus Administrators Association. Middle School Principal Tracy Colson, who's the secretary of the CAA. High School Principal Janet Routsong. High School Principal Kimberly Mills, CAA president. District level representative Steve Hoffman, who's the CAA vice president. Julie Davis, executive director of Ohio Association of Elementary School Administrators. Mark Jones is associate executive director of the OAESA. And April Knight, Zone 3 director of the National Association of Elementary School Principals and principal at Avondale. And as they join us at the podium, I will call on Board Member Gibbs to introduce a resolution.
Thank you, President Baker, and we'd like to thank every single person here for their service. In addition to our amazing leadership that we have at the podium, if you are a past principal, would you just wave your hand? Stand up. If you are a past principal, where are our past principals at? Former principals, always principals at heart. Yes, yes, yes. We thank you all. So on behalf of the board, I would like to offer this resolution, and then we'll invite you to have comments at the end. And I'll be brief, but there's no amount of words that can express our board's support and appreciation for all that you do for leading your buildings and helping ensure us climate and a culture of success. So it reads as follows. Whereas each year, the month of October is designated National Principal Month to honor and recognize the importance of school principals and their leadership in ensuring that each child is highly educated, prepared for leadership and service, and empowered for success as citizens in the global community. And whereas outside of the classroom teacher, school principals have the greatest impact on the academic success of the students in their care. And whereas principals are educational visionaries, instructional leaders, assessment experts, adept communicators, budget analysts, facility managers, and special program administrators entrusted with our most valuable resource, our students. And whereas principals are the guardians of various legal, contractual, and policy mandates and initiatives, as well as setting the academic tone for the school. And whereas principals exemplify our Columbus City Schools values as they work tirelessly to maintain academic accountability, to ensure a safe and productive learning environment where students learn, grow, and thrive, and to encourage and facilitate teachers' and parents' efforts to make a positive difference in the lives of young people. And whereas principals and assistant principals are responsible for the day-to-day operation of their schools, which includes leading the instructional program to ensure our students are prepared for life, managing educational initiatives, and building relationships with students, teachers, parents, community partners, and others to achieve excellence. And whereas the dedication and determination of a principal sets the cultural environment for their schools as they work collaboratively with teachers and others to develop and maintain high curriculum standards and set performance goals and objectives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus Board of Education does hereby honor and recognize October 2019 as National Principals Month. And be it further resolved that the Columbus Board of Education values and thanks all of our principals, assistant principals, and leadership interns throughout the district for their contributions in helping to pursue the goal of creating a world-class model of public education that prepares our students to reach their fullest potential. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Education urges all residents of Columbus to join the district in expressing our gratitude to our school principals, assistant principals, and leadership interns for the critical role they perform every day with our students.
Thank you. Is that a motion, Ms. Gibbs?
That is a motion.
Okay, there's a second. Mr. Treasurer, would you like to call the roll?
President Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Vice President Cole,
Absolutely.
Ms. Gibbs,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
Ms. Reyes,
Yes.
Ms. Adair.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Let's give our principals a round of applause. Now, have you all appointed a spokesman, or will each one of you address the board tonight? Oh, very good.
I think that's probably me. So President Baker, Vice President Cole, and all of the other members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Dixon, we truly appreciate all of your support. We could not do this job without you. So please know that we do keep you in our hearts as we are doing the work out at the buildings every day. So thank you very much for acknowledging all of our hard work. I'd also like to present Dr. Julie Davis and Mark Jones from OESEA.
Close enough.
Sorry, OESEA, sorry.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, President Baker, board members, Superintendent Dixon, and the Columbus Public Schools, the city schools. The fact that you, as the largest district in the state, for several years have taken the initiative to highlight and honor and celebrate the important work that principals do each and every day. I thank you. I thank you very much for that. And I thank you, Ms. Gibbs. I mean, I was exhausted just listening to what they do every day. But you know what they do. And you were able to articulate that and really list all the many, many things they do. And going back to just what you said, President Baker, second only to that vital man or woman that is in the classroom as that child's teacher is that building principal, making a difference. So thank you so much for your initiative and your modeling for the rest of the districts around our state. Additionally, I want to say thank you very much to the Ohio legislator. Last year in December, they declared October is the month for Ohio's principals. So we're very excited. Frankly, Mark and I worked for 7 years to make that happen. And last year when I was at this meeting and I said, we're still working to make that happen. And somebody asked me, well, what will you do? And I said, I have no idea. I've been working hard for 6 or 7 years to make it happen, but I'm sure it'll be something spectacular. So it is something spectacular. Governor DeWine just did a video thanking principals. We're sending that out on all of our social media platforms, ourselves and my colleagues at the Secondary Association. Certainly, we're doing all sorts of events at our various schools and highlighting the important work that we do. We're ending that month with a literal get on the bus. We're going to visit 3 of our recent award winners at schools, and we are packing not a school bus. My members asked, could we have a luxury bus? So we're getting on a luxury bus, but 55 of us are going to 3 different recent winning. Superintendent Paulo Di Maria is joining us just for a time of learning. What can I take away from seeing another site and what they do? Because our principals, just like our teachers, want to improve each and every day to meet the needs of our kids. So thank you again for inviting us back. Thank you for recognizing the hard work the men and women who are principals do each and every day. Thank you.
Would you all mind coming up front for a photograph, please?
Let's get to be careful.
I see. We're going for it.
Quick protocol.
Again, thank you, principals, assistant principals, LIs. Thank you very much for the hard work that you do on behalf of our students and district employees every day. We appreciate it, not just this month, but all year long. Let's move on then, colleagues. Our next recognition is for National LGBTQ History Month. And National Coming Out Day, as you may know, is October 11th. The pursuit of social justice and equality for all in Columbus City Schools is a priority to this board. At this special time this month, we want to recognize October as National LGBTQ History Month, October 11th as National Coming Out Day, and take the time to honor the 25 years of work by the Kaleidoscope Youth Center by asking Aaron Upchurch, Executive Director, and Amanda Erickson, Education and Training Manager of Kaleidoscope, to join us at the podium. Come on up. I would like Jimmy Beal to also join them at the podium, and students, please come up as well. And I would like to call on Board Member Reyes to offer a resolution.
Thank you, President Baker. In 1994, Rodney Wilson, a Missouri high school teacher, believed a month should be dedicated to the celebration and teaching of gay and lesbian history. And lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning intersex, and asexual Americans have made and continue to make great and lasting contributions that continue to strengthen the fabric of the American society. And encompassing a number of historical important days, October is set to remind both the LGBTQIA and wider communities of the important roles of LGBTQIA people have taken in creating the social, legal, and political worlds in which we live today. And LGBT History Month sends an important message about the vital importance of recognizing and exploring the role of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people in American history. And according to the Equality Forum, a national and international LGBTQIA civil rights organization with an educational focus, LGBT History Month provides role models, builds community, and makes the civil rights statement about our extraordinary national and international contributions. And October 11, 2019 is National Coming Out Day. And the Columbus Board of Education appreciates and recognizes the importance of LGBT History Month as an effective means of educating and calling to action members of our community to work together to promote equal protection of all students and staff, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. The Columbus Board of Education was one of the first school boards in the region to pass a policy banning discrimination based on sexual orientation. The Columbus Board of Education expanded the anti-sexual orientation discrimination policy to include a ban on sexual orientation bullying and harassment, while also including a ban on gender identity and expression bullying, harassment, and discrimination. In Kaleidoscope, Youth Center has been a champion for the young LGBTQIA community in Central Ohio and provided them with a safe, supported, and confidential environment for 25 years. In Kaleidoscope, Youth Center continues to be a champion, advocate, and educator of the issues facing our young LGBTQIA students through educational training, housing, and self-awareness programs. And Jimmy Beal, her wife Mindy Russ Beal, our CCS GSA students and community who have promoted and organized our participation at the Columbus Pride Parade and their endless support of our LGBTQIA district community. Therefore, be it resolved by the Columbus City School Boards of Education hereby recognizes October 2019 as LGBT History Month, and be it further resolved that the Columbus Board of Education honors and recognizes the 25-year legacy of the Kaleidoscope Youth Center in serving the needs of the community, that the Columbus Board of Education honors and recognizes the tireless efforts of Jimmy Beal and her steadfast support and advocacy on behalf of LGBTQIA students in Columbus City Schools. The Columbus Board of Education urges all residents of Columbus to join the district in expressing our gratitude to our school principals, assistant principals, and leadership interns for the critical role they perform every day with our students.
Oh, moved and seconded. Very good. Mr. Treasurer, would you like to call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Adair? President Baker?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Who's up first? Come on up. Hi. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'll be formal. Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bohoric, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Dixon. On behalf of Kaleidoscope Youth Center, our entire team, and all the youth we serve, I thank you for this honor and this resolution this evening. I'm not just the Executive Director of Kaleidoscope Youth Center, I'm also a parent to 2 children in the district. And knowing that the support is here for young people, that makes it even more personal to me. In 2018, Kaleidoscope Youth Center served over 500 new youth and had over 5,000 visits to our center. Those numbers did not include other events like our Pride celebration, our other prom that we do in May, and we do a back-to-school event called Barbequeer, which brought in probably over another 700 youth. This year, we are on track to exceed the number of 500 we are already at 500 unique youth this year. And of those numbers, students in the District of Columbus City Schools represent over half. In particular, students of color, Black students, other students of color. And opportunities like this for public acceptance, public affirmation, helps to decrease the risk factors that we know our young people are prone to, especially our transgender, non-binary, and youth of color. Things such as self-harm, mental health symptoms like depression, anxiety, isolation, dropping out of school. Our young people are at risk for increased homelessness, and just overall not having a well-being. And so opportunities like this help decrease those factors and allow our youth to know that they belong here in our community and in our society. Not only is belonging important, but having access to community and affirming opportunities such as the GSAs is something that is extremely important, which Amanda Erickson here, who does not want to speak, is our education and training manager and works with over 70 GSAs across the state of Ohio. And so we are very excited to continue working with Columbus City Schools to build the GSAs here in the district. What we see in our center is our young people coming in and experiencing, getting a taste of that community and that belonging and safety. And we see them develop as leaders, wanting to go back to their schools and talk to their principals. They're learning how to advocate for themselves around pronouns and names and content in the schools. We've got 8 youth who just joined our community advisory board that are from Columbus City Schools who are developing leadership skills, and we're creating pipelines so they can be involved and give back to their community. And so we're very excited about the work that we're doing. We appreciate the support of all of our community and all of you, and we're really happy to be celebrating 25 years. So thank you again. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on 25 years of Kaleidoscope. And anyone else like to speak? Jimmy Beal, do you want to?
Just briefly, I want to thank you, President Baker, Board Member Reyes, Board Member Cole, Board Member Adair, Board Member Gibbs, Board Member Ragland, Board Member Brown, Superintendent Dixon, and our community partners who are represented here. When we started, we were the first. There was no manual, there was no handbook. What we did was listen to the kids who came and said, this is what we'd really like. We'd really like to march in the parade. This is what we'd really like. We'd really like conversations where we can tell you what we run into so that you can help us know how to address it. Here's what we'd really like. And every single time we listen to kids, what I can tell you is we moved in the right direction. This work that we keep doing is really because of them, because they come and say, here's what we really want, here's what we really need. It takes courage, it takes passion and compassion in order to step forward into the light when you're part of a stigmatized community. And we have managed to remove that day by day because of visibility and recognition. Your recognition means a world to students who need some visibility and some support. I spent the day with a counselor the other day who was working with a young student who was suicidal. And we got that student support. That the counselor called me today and said, I think this student is trans. I think the struggle is around that. Not a problem. We can do that because we've made those steps. This work is real for the students' lives, and I want you to know that. And thank you so very much.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions or comments before we take our photograph? All right, I'll ask everyone to come up front for a photograph if you don't mind. Did we vote? He's not looking at me funny, so I think so.
I think we're already done. Would our guests from Ohio help join us so we can just And now we're down. Why didn't they?
Yes, sir. Oh, okay, very well then. Okay, thank you very much. Before we move on to the next item, colleagues, are there any questions related to the LGBTQ resolution? Mr. Brown?
Yes, I just wanted to comment very briefly about the importance of the work that you all do. Aaron and Jimmy and Mindy and all of you is wonderful, is great. I did need to at least touch on the story on when I first met Mindy and Jimmy back in 2009, February, Valentine's Day. I was then serving as probate judge. And one of the things that occurred annually in those days was that members of the LGBT community would come down to the probate court and ask for a marriage license so that they could get married. And that was in the dark old days before the law allowed that. And they went to the marriage license bureau within my court and asked and were told no, but they were told something else. I had started at the court literally 3-4 days before that. I was brand new at that court, and I had given instructions that if anybody shows up as expected, and I'd heard about this, to please ask them to come down to my chambers. Well, they thought they were being summoned to the principal's office. We didn't know each other at all, and they came very nervously and anxiously to the chambers to talk to the judge. We ended up having a wonderful conversation, and a wonderful friendship developed. And I've been able to see and know ever since then what great work they do within Columbus City Schools with our school kids. That was long before I imagined that I was going to be here, and I was happy to know that many of our young students were getting the kind of assistance and support that I know they can do. I was thrilled that Columbus City Schools was able and willing to be progressive and to address these issues properly from quite some time back. And I know that will continue and get even better. And the resources that we have in this community are wonderful. People like Jimmy and Mindy, but also organizations like Kaleidoscope and many other. And I just personally wanted to thank you all for coming, and thank you all for the work that you do.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any other comments? Thank you. All right, let's move on to item 3.3, National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast cancer is a serious disease that is changing the lives of millions of Americans each year. Although we have made progress, we have a long way to go to defeat this awful disease. One of the tools we have to fight the disease is to raise awareness about it and ways to prevent it. In honor of National Breast Cancer Awareness, we have Dr. Jennifer Roncone, I apologize if I said that wrong, Ms. Sonia Booker, and I also see Shannon is here with us as well. Welcome to you three from Ohio Health to receive our thanks for 26 years of partnership in the fight against breast cancer and the wellness of women and girls and men in our district. As they have joined us at the podium, I'm going to call on Board Member Reyes to offer a resolution.
Thank you. October is designated as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and breast cancer touches the lives of our students, staff, families, and residents from every background in every community across the district, and through higher awareness, great strides have been made in combating this devastating illness. And during National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the Columbus Board of Education and the district pauses to honor those we have lost, lend our strength to those who carry on the fight, and pursue every avenue to educate our students in our community about this tragic disease. And the Columbus Board of Education during this month and all year round stands with those who have been affected by breast cancer and recognizes the ongoing efforts of dedicated advocates, researchers, healthcare providers, and survivors who exemplify the values of Columbus City Schools as they strive each day to defeat this terrible disease. And Ohio Health and the Columbus Board of Education created and nurtured a 26-year partnership to focus on health care issues for women and teens through the Wellness on Wheels Women's Health Program initiated. And 1 in 6 cases of breast cancer occur in women between the ages of 40 and 49. And 75% of women diagnosed with breast cancer do not have a family history and are not considered high risk. And early detection of breast cancer has reduced cancer mortality by 40% since 1990, and mammograms can reveal nearly 90% of breast cancers as early as 2 years before a lump can be felt. I am one of those early people.
Take your time. Take your time.
As a survivor. Therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus Board of Education hereby recognizes October 2019 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and be it further resolved that the Columbus Board of Education honors and recognizes the 26-year partnership with Ohio Health to provide the Wellness on Wheels Women's Health Program and to fight the dreaded breast cancer disease. And be it further resolved that the Columbus Board of Education encourages all district employees and the community to wear pink in October as a show of support for breast cancer awareness and survivors. And be it further resolved, the Columbus Board of Education encourages regular exams for women 40 years and old and possibly sooner for women with a history of breast cancer in their family, because early detection is the key to beating this disease.
And that's a motion, and is there a second? Moved and seconded by Ms. Gibbs. Mr. Treasurer, would you call the roll, please?
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Adair? President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, colleagues. Good evening. Are you up first?
Yes, I'm just going to say a couple of brief words. Council President Baker, Vice President Cole, members of the board, Superintendent Dixon, Treasurer Bahorek, and Internal Auditor Smith. Did I get them all? Thank you very much for having us today, this evening, during this month that is very important. We do, in fact, have a 26-year partnership with Columbus City Schools. We have provided women's healthcare services not only to your students, but also to your faculty, to parents in the community, and to your staff. And are very, very proud of the partnership in continuing to serve everybody regardless of their ability to pay. We believe at Ohio Health that access is key, and mobile health access is one of the great ways to reach people who we're not traditionally reaching. So with me today are two amazing providers. Sana Booker, who is a nurse on the Wellness on Wheels vehicle. She is also the clinical manager of the program and has been doing the role for 26 years. So she really is instrumental in this partnership. An amazing support for women and families in our community. And then Dr. Jennifer Roncone, who's the medical director of our Wellness on Wheels Women's Health unit. She's just going to say a couple of words, but again, on behalf of Ohio Health, thank you.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for having us. On behalf of our leadership team and our mobile health clinical teams, we graciously accept this honor. Through the use of 3 mobile clinics, we lift barriers to healthcare, and that many patients face, and they're within our neighborhoods and communities. And we actually have a presence with our mobile clinics within the community. So we lift the barrier for transportation. As Shannon said, we lift the barrier that would be an inability to pay. And we lift a barrier to provide access to preventative services, mammography, pap smears, and vaccinations. We are very privileged and honored to do this, and we appreciate this month for National Breast Cancer Awareness. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, any questions or comments related to the Ohio Health Partnership? Board Member Gibbs?
Yes. One more time, just really do want to thank our partners at Ohio Health for your continued commitment. I'm very proud of the developments in medicine and treatments that allow us to catch it early so that our own board member Ramona Reyes can still be with us. And I will also make this time to put in a plug for male breast cancer survivors. I have in my family a male breast cancer survivor who just had an itch and just thought, his doctor thought enough to say, let's check it. And they were able to catch it at stage 0, as you would say, just as the forms of the cells were forming. And so as we go through this month, encourage all of the women and men in your life to get checked. It's even more rare in men, so it's even more important that you become vigilant in this fight and for preventative care and to make sure that you're checking. And so we do thank you, and not only do you come to talk about breast cancer, but we have 50,000 students that we hope and believe every day will find a cure for every cancer that's out there and for every ailment that takes our family members away just a little bit too soon. We hope that we are providing the high academic curriculum standards and preparation so that they can excel in fields of medicine and research to end this awful disease. So we are connected through the future and the hope for the cure. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Colleagues, any other comments related to item 3.3? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item 3.4, which is National Custodian Appreciation Day. It's the last resolution that we have tonight. Just because it's last does not mean it's the least important. Words cannot describe the amount of respect and gratitude we have for our custodians across the district. We have 109 schools, plus a number of administrative buildings. They make every last one of them as clean and as safe and as healthy for our students and employees every day as they possibly can. They're truly the backbone of the organization, perform a long list of behind-the-scenes jobs that are very important but often go unnoticed, in part because they do their job so well. And I'd like to ask Vice President Cole to offer a resolution to honor our custodians.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just quickly, you know the idea of diversity and inclusion. I think of diversity as the opportunity to understand that everybody has a case with a K, knowledge, attitude, skills, and experiences. Knowledge, attitude, skills, and experiences. Inclusion is the idea and opportunity to let them know that you accept them and hopefully love them. I just wanted to leave you with that. Thank you, Mr. President. Whereas October 2nd, 2019 is recognized across the country as National Custodian Appreciation Day. And whereas the Columbus City Schools custodians are the first to arrive each day, long before anyone else, and they are the last to leave after everyone else is gone. And whereas the Columbus City Schools custodians operate behind the scene and provide a critical service to the students and employees of this district on a daily basis. And whereas the Columbus City Schools custodians often are unappreciated for their hard work that they do day in and day out to keep our schools clean, well-maintained, healthy, and spotless. And whereas the Columbus City Schools custodians provide a service to over 50,000 students and 9,000 employees across the district without hesitation or reservation. And whereas the Columbus City Schools custodians perform their duties with great skill, care, compassion, humor, sensitivity, and with style and grace. And whereas the Columbus City Schools custodians provide an invaluable service that is critical to the smooth daily operation and proper functioning of the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus City School Board of Education does hereby honor and recognize October 2nd, 2019 as National Custodian Appreciation Day. And be it further resolved that the Columbus City School Board of Education values and honors all of our custodians throughout Columbus City Schools for their contributions in helping our employees of the district fulfill their mission of preparing our students to reach their full potential. And be it further resolved that the Columbus City School Board of Education urges all residents of Columbus to join the district in expressing our gratitude to our custodians for their critical role they perform every day in making sure buildings are clean, safe, healthy, and for all students and employees. Thank you, Mr. President.
There's a motion. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and there is a second. As we prepare to vote, I would like to ask President Lois Carson to the podium and anyone else here representing the Columbus School Employees Association. And Mr. Treasurer.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes? Has stepped away. Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes, sir.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer. President Carson, good evening.
Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Coe, and Dr. Dixon. Behind me today, I have my team. I call them always having my back. I have Derek Fields, who is the president for Head Custodians. That's our daytime custodians. And with him is Charlene Graves. She's the treasurer for their local. And then I have Ms. Charlene Pettis, who is the president for Evening Custodians. Without them, there would be no President Carson. I thank them for their commitment and their dedication. I think what I remember about my first day in the district was a secretary said to me, if you're kind to the secretary and you make the custodian your best friend, you don't have a care in the world. I took that recommendation to heart, and I can tell you there were some snow days I walked out and my car was clean as could be. I could tell you there were some moments I'd walk out, half the parking lot cars were clean as could be. Because as the day custodians got off of work and the night custodians came in, they made sure not only did they clean the sidewalks that we needed to walk on, but they made sure that the staff's cars were clean so that they could get in their cars. A lot of people think that this crew just stays in the building and clean the building. This is the landscape crew. This is a few basketball coaches in some elementary schools because they see the need that there's no coaches there. These are some reading coaches because they discover that the kids need assistance with reading. So when I come to you and I say we want respect, we only ask for respect because we give respect. And a lot of times society will downgrade us because of the title of the work that we do. And when you have a staff meeting in buildings, you will find that this is a group that's often forgotten and to be invited to the staff meeting. But this is the first group that will unload a principal's car. The first group that will fill up a teacher's car with books because they need to go to another building. But have a staff potluck, a staff meeting, they're the last ones to be invited, but they're always called on when the room needs to be cleaned. So I'm going to hope as a district, the words that you read, Vice President Cole, that we can stretch those words across the district and give these teams the support and the respect that I fight daily for all 3,300 OPSI members to receive. Thank you.
President Carson, would any of your colleagues like to speak?
Mr. Fields, as I said, always has my back.
Excuse me. Yes, my name's Derek Fields. I am the former head custodian at Columbus Afrocentric recently, and now the head custodian at Medina Middle School. My day starts at 6:30 in the morning with the young lady who wants to go into the auditorium, which is closed because we don't want students in there by themselves, of course. But I understand she wants to finish her homework. So I'll make sure that I find some work to do in the auditorium to make sure this young lady has a couple of moments of free time to get her assignment completed. Okay. We're a hard-working set. We take pride in our job. We take pride in the commitment that we've made to Columbus City Schools. We understand that the less noticed that we are, the better job we're doing. If you notice me too much, I didn't do something. And it's noticeable. But we do try hard. There's 109 buildings, school buildings, and I think about 20 non-student buildings. There's 105 head custodians, and I think it's 260 or 270 evening custodians. And we do the best we can with the crew that we have. It's nice to be appreciated for the work that we do. So thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Charlene Pettis. I'm the president for 101 and the evening custodians. And I had an opportunity about a month ago to walk into the building with a young man that just going off. I'm in an elementary school. He just having a bad day. And the principal couldn't do nothing with him. They said, well, there's Miss Pettis. I said, what's going on? I can't stand this school. I can't stand this school. I said, well, I can't stand this school neither. I said, but do you want to come with me and talk about it? No, I don't want to talk about it. I just hate this school. I said, well, honey, what did the school do to you? I said, it's a building. I said, the only thing we want to do is understand what's going on. So I finally managed him, I held my hand out, and I managed to get him to take my hand. I said, okay. So we walking down the hall. I said, what is wrong? She just don't stop touching me. Who don't stop touching me? My teacher, she just put her hand on me. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, I don't like that. I don't like that. I said, why don't you like that? It just makes me feel uncomfortable. I said, okay. All while I'm talking to him, I'm touching him. But I told him, you know, sometimes we are old, and that's what we do. But we do it out of love and appreciation. That don't mean it's harmful. I said, there's a difference. So anytime Ms. Pettis walk up and tells you, it's because out of love. And the teacher trying to get your attention, but it's out of love and concern for your education. So everything you think is bad, not always bad. So we bumped hands. I said, we good? He said, we good. That makes me feel like the job I do is worth doing. Because that little boy see me every day. Hi, Miss Pettis. I say, hey, man. And here's the thing. I still don't know his name.
Mr. Oldham, would you like to share any comments?
President Baker, members of the board, I would, but I think it'd be appropriate for me to defer to Mr. Lawrence Barnett, who leads the department. So as he walks, I will steal a couple minutes. As the team of custodial services know, my heart is there. I started here in the district with custodial services. I take great pride in the work that they do. I tell them I'm where I am today because of the work that they put in. No one, any leader realized they can't do it by themselves. And so from me to all you standing here today and to all the custodial services team, I appreciate you. I'd say that, but I like to say it publicly. I appreciate what you do. I know we have differences sometimes, but I think those differences will make us grow, and we all realize the reason why we're here is for those students who come in our room every day, who come in our buildings every day, and the work that you do. And we always say this, what we do in custodial services has a direct impact on students crossing the stage. We don't ever want to forget that. So thank you for what you do.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Oldham. So I've been in the district 23 years in the custodial department, and this is a first. And it is a great honor, and as someone said earlier, oftentimes it is a thankless job. But we get what we get in our satisfaction knowing that we're helping kids be successful. I can't wait to communicate this out to the remainder of the teams in all of our locations. We're very passionate about this work. We are even more passionate about being able to help a child be successful. And many of you know me, you've heard me say, it's not much that impresses me, but if you want to impress me, help a child. So thank you so very much. We appreciate it.
And I'll ask all of you to come up front for your picture, and while we're doing that, I'd like to say, yes, Ms. Pettis, come on up. President Carson, as you all come up, I'd like to speak for myself personally and say to you, the years that I've had the opportunity to work with you, I really appreciated it. In many ways, you've been a mentor to me, so I want to thank you personally. This is our last National Custodian Appreciation Day together, so I just wanted to share those comments with you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Did you give her, give her the resolution? Because I forgot to give her mine.
Tall people in the back row. Tall and spirit.
You're the best, but they may be over at 60 or 50. You're the best. I'll give you the trash.
We're looking at Brian. Here it is. Sorry, Andre.
First,
Take your word.
I do want to say something.
Colleagues, any other questions or comments related to National Custodian Appreciation Day? Board Member Gibbs?
Yes, just, Lois, Carson, I do just want to say to you and to the entire team, Mr. Odom, and all of the district team, to really do thank you. I heard you reference a lot about whether or not you are valued or how your work is viewed. I am the daughter of a teen mom and a garbage man who worked for sanitation. So I'm born and bred AFSCME Council 8 my entire life. But more importantly, the pride we felt when my dad walked down the street, walking behind the garbage truck, because that day our house was on his route, is priceless and unparalleled. And I can tell you that Mr. Smith was my custodian at Franklin Alternative Middle School, and Miss Barksdale was my custodian at Columbus Alternative High School. And that of all the things they did, they found all the notes way before texting, right? They found all of whoever wrote on the bathroom wall, and they could tell you whether or not she did it or not. They cut down on a whole lot of he said, she said. They were referees. They were confidants. They were friends. They were sometimes the only person of color in a building. Sometimes they were the only person who would speak to you when your friends got mad. They were the ones who knew the real. They saw everything in the parking lot and everything in the staff lounge. They knew how it went down, and they still do. And I appreciate each and every one of them, men and women, who help create an environment of safety. If it's not a clean environment, it's not a safe environment. And we know that you are a huge part of the culture and climate of success. And when you feel good about where you are, you feel good about what you're doing. And if there is dignity in all work, then there is dignity for all workers. And I remember that on my father's wall. So I do appreciate everything. Now, not turning them notes in, y'all can slow down on that, right? Y'all gave a couple of them to Jackie Rawls, and that impacted my life for life. But nevertheless, now the voices of all your children. You are an integral part of the team. And I hope as we recognize both the principals and the custodians, we look at the entire team and the community of how we all work together to wrap around and provide support so that our child can be citizens in a global community and successful. So thank you, and take our thanks and love to each and every member, part-time, full-time, and retired.
On behalf of the village I stand here for, we thank you for that. We spread the love and the word and the encouragement, and I can't wait to make copies of this so that we can share it with the custodial staff. I too am the daughter of a Columbus City School custodian, and some of the stories I knew about my dad as a custodian, I would not be able to be his union rep today because he would be fired. I'm just saying. But we do appreciate it, and thank you for recognizing us this evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, just very briefly, Lois, to you and folks, what you said about the relationship with the secretary and the custodian and the lunch ladies, and in my elementary school, they served a hot lunch. Those were invaluable. Those people really did make a difference in my life. I remember Mr. Rivers very well. He worked not only cleaning the building, but also on the buses. And a lot of people did that additional duty. But he's somebody that I just have fond memories of, and I know you all know, but just want to remind you, your smile, every one of the custodians, bus drivers, lunch people, makes a huge difference. It really does in the lives of all of us, and I would bet that most people sitting here would agree with that. And so keep in mind that, yes, you are important, and the work you do is important.
Board Member Adair?
So I just want to say to all of the CCS grown-ups that everyone is extremely valuable in the role that you play here in the district. Without you, we do not do what we can do to help our students meet academic success. I really want to ensure not only that we are a district that is top-notch and providing the best urban education possible, but that we also are an employer of choice for every individual in every single one of our positions. That's very important to me. Everyone should feel valued and understand where you fit in our strategic vision. And we will continue to ensure that everyone does that as we move forward. Thank you, CCS grown-ups, for your service.
Thank you, Board Member Adair. Thank you very much. I did want to acknowledge, I believe Representative Erica Crawley came into the room, and do you want to offer any greetings from the General Assembly? Not to put you on the spot, but you were on the spot, right?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm actually just coming from the State House, from the Education Committee. We're really working on some really important legislation, in particular anti-bullying and hazing, to make sure that our students are taken care of here in the district and across Ohio. So I always want to say, use me as a resource. Know that I'm working on behalf of all of you and the students here in the district that I represent, part of the 26th House District, but all students across the state of Ohio. And I am here, I work for you. So thank you.
Thank you for being here very much. And thank you for your work on behalf of our district and our students at the State House. We can certainly use some common sense approaches to solving issues in the General Assembly. Any comments or questions for State Rep Crawley? Board Member Gibbs.
Just very briefly, thank you for coming. And we thank you for your advocacy. And in case you want to know, she has community hours on Monday, October 21st at the Far East Neighborhood Pride Center. And on Tuesday, November 19th from 5:37, she'll be at Barrack Recreation Center. And so as much as you would like to engage with us. She has opened her doors and her hours to come out to the community for you to ask her and to hear her concerns as well. So we thank you, Representative Crowley, for hosting those open hours for the parents and the communities that we both serve.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for making that little plug. And we will be down in Marion Franklin in December. But I have and will continue to be in the district at the schools. I think I go to Independence next week or the week after. I was just at South High the other day. And, I'm really wanting to have a partnership with the district. I've spoken with Dr. Roush several times. We're working on some things right now with Safe Routes to School. I met with the superintendent. And so my hope is to really have a partnership in that you have a friend at the State House. And not only am I in the district, when I'm in the district doing the community hours, it's no agenda. Like I really am there to hear what the concerns are of my neighbors in the district. I look at myself as, yes, I am a state representative, but I am a liaison to at the local level and to the federal level. And so it is really an opportunity to hear from you and what your concerns are and how I can help and make a difference. But if you can't make it to those hours, feel free to call my office. I do pick up the phone sometimes. I think people are caught off guard when I do. They're like, I want to talk to your legislative aide. I'm like, I'm the representative. You can talk to me. And they were like, I've never had that before. And so I want to make that common, so you can call my office, schedule a meeting with myself in the district or whatever is convenient for you because, like I said, I really do work for you and it matters. This is what informs my work. I can go back to my colleagues at the State House and say, you know what, this is what matters in the district, and therefore I have some partners that will come up here and be in the committee hearings and provide testimony because they want to see change. And so thank you so much for that plug.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions or comments, Representative Crawley, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Let's move on now, colleagues, assuming there's no objection, to take public testimony. And we do have 5 individuals signed up to speak this evening. So when I call your name, I'll state your topic and board action requested. I'll ask you to approach the podium. You'll have 4 minutes to speak. You'll see a timer on the screen, and I will ask that you do conclude within 4 minutes. The first speaker, Cassandra Freeland, topic, updates about Columbus Alternative High School, board action, adopt a plan to address the heat at cause. Good evening.
Good evening. Board President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bohorig, Auditor Smith, Dr. Dixon, thank you for having me, members of the board. I don't have prepared remarks, so I'm going to do my best to stay within my 4 minutes. But first, I wanted to thank you for the decision to close schools yesterday, well, today and tomorrow. It's not tomorrow yet. I think that was the right thing to do for students and for staff. And I also want to start by saying that I appreciate the updates CAUSE has received. I have had a chance to look at some of them. I have a couple of pictures. They're hard to see, but these are our old bathrooms, the pint-sized bathrooms. So these are my knees, and that's the door. And I consider myself a medium-sized person. So these are our new bathrooms. These are my knees, and that's the door. And then what I would also tell you about these bathrooms is they're private. Each stall is its own room. It's nice and clean. It's much better. Additionally, I think we have a couple of bathrooms that are family-style bathrooms, so any person can go in this bathroom. They don't need to choose which bathroom they need to go in. And I think that's a big improvement, and I really appreciate that the district listened to our students' needs that way. We also got air conditioning in the cafeteria, which was able to fit all of us for our senior college checklist meeting. New asphalt in both the parking lots, which was a big improvement. Improved signage outside, so you can see that this parking lot is for bus drop-off and student parking, and might make things a little bit easier in the morning. I think we are getting new lighting, but each time I've been there, it's been so hot the lights are still off, so I'm not sure. And those would be not fluorescent bulbs, the other ones that don't make as much heat, LEDs, yes. We also, this is sort of outside the district, but we secured a donation from Franklin University of 28 tables and 56 chairs that I think will be a nice improvement to our building. So we appreciate all of those things. But I'm here to tell you that the heat is still an issue, and I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. It's a health issue. It's a learning issue. A few of you were at the tour and conversation we had last year. I know Board Member Ragland was there, and I think President Baker as well. And there was one student, Megan Sharp, and she just said, I cannot think in the heat in this building. And she's brilliant. Just to brag on her a little bit, she works at the Columbus Dispatch. You might have seen her writing in there. That's her internship on Wednesday. Her play was chosen by Mad Lab for the Young Writers Workshop this summer, so I went to see her play. It was wonderful. But she wants a building where it's, she can think. And then it's also not just about sweat and comfort, it's a health issue, and I won't go on about that, but for students with chronic diseases, the heat is an issue. Then the absolute fatigue is a problem too. I have a son that is working on his college applications. We have 4 complete, 1 to go, and that FAFSA opens today. And last week he wanted to go over his essay with his English teacher one last time, and I thought, great. So he took it to school with him, and in the evening when I came home, I said, did you go to Mrs. Foley with your essay? He said, no. It was so hot in the math room that I took a nap in study hall. And I thought, okay, I understand. He just put his head down and took a nap. And I know his math room is hot because when I was in there for the open house, I was standing still and I had beads of sweat on my legs. And it has to be pretty hot for you to have beads of sweat on your legs standing still. It's not like, your forehead or your upper lip. And there's just no air moving in that building. And I know we're not the only building without air, and we've been in another building. My students started in a building without air conditioning, but it had much wider hallways, and it was much more open, and it was easier to get air moving in that building, which is still being used and doesn't have air. So I know they're hot as well. In that first year, when it was hot in that building, it was a year like this year because I remember swimming outside in October and the water was still warm. It was that hot. So it was a similar experience, but there was still a breeze in that building. So I'm telling you this because I know that CAUSE is not scheduled to receive additional improvements in the near term because it needs a building replacement, and it does. And I know there are conversations happening right now about a building levy in 2020. But what I want to suggest is that you come up with a plan either way. So I think the district should have a plan that involves a new building and a plan that doesn't. If there's no levy or a levy doesn't pass, some way that we're going to address this building that we're kind of stuck with now. The students currently in the building are not going to see a new building, including my kids. I know that. But I think that someone's kids should. And we also need a short-term approach for the heat. I know you've put together a committee, which I appreciate, and I appreciate that. Recently, though, I was at the Columbus State...
Ms. Freeland?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So my bottom line is that if you found $29 million for 3 other buildings last year, you can do better for CAUSE, either a new building or something in the short term to give this family some relief. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for coming down. Any colleagues, any clarifying questions for Ms. Freeland? Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker, Ali Mohammed. Topic, ESL parents. Board action requested. Listen to our presentation regarding ESL parents. Mr. Mohammed, good evening.
Okay, we have like speaker number 1 and we are speaker number 2 and speaker number 3. So can we use our 8 minutes together?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Okay, all right. Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Behoric, Internal Auditor Smith, and members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Dixon. My name is Muhammad Ali. By profession, I'm an electrical engineer, but by passion, I'm the voice for the voiceless. I'm with the organization called Somali Parents Education Network. Our number 1 goal is to close the education gap by empowering the Somali parents as well as the students. I will now welcome one of the parents to say a few words. So do.
kulligiin waa idin wada salaamay waxaan ku salaamay luuqadayda markii xigto ciyaalka anaga iskuulaadka aan u dirsano dhib badan ayaan ku qabnaa dhibkaas waxay tahay aqoon daro macallimiinta oo ignore gareeyo waxyaabo badan ayaa jira marka waxaa loo baahan yahay wax ka qabatiin waxaas ayada ah waxaa ka mid ah waxbarashada oo mar walba hadday xataa xun yihiin iyo hadday fiican yihiin la dhaho waa fiican tihiin hadday xun yihiin waa fiican tihiin hadday fiican yihiin waa fiican tihiin marka wax anaga xaqa iyo waxaan xaq ahayn ma kala garanayno macallimiintana waan fahmi la-aanahay kuwa oo madaxda aan waan garan weynay marka sidaa daraacadeed waxaa u baahannahay caruurteeda in wax loo qabto si wanaagsan wax loo isticmaalo ayaan rabnaa waana mahadsantihiin.
By the look of your faces, no one understood the outcry of our parents that they encounter because of the school system. They speak a different language. I myself went to Columbus City Schools. I graduated from Centennial High School, and prior to that, I went to Mifflin High School. I'm now an OSU graduate. I have little siblings who are currently going to Columbus City Schools. We as Somalis are part of the greater Columbus community, and almost all of our children go to this school district. It's very unfortunate that our parents still feel left out or unwelcomed by the district. Just because they don't speak English. But Muhammad Ali and I, Soda Farah, are fortunate enough to have parents that were resilient through the adversities that come with not speaking English. Research tells us that school districts with good family engagement not only helps the students perform well, but also the district performance level goes up. For example, when you look at the report card, which was released by the Ohio Board of Education, our district had letter grade of F last year, but because of the performance of the ESL students, the grade changed to a D. Furthermore, the educators have the wrong perception of the immigrant parents themselves. They often think that we are not involved in our kids' education because we don't show up at schools. Few moments ago, you have all witnessed the perfect example of how a parent feels when the educators don't understand what the ESL parents are saying. I mean, what the ESL parents are saying, excuse me. I'm a little nervous here. That is exactly why our parents feel disconnected from the school system. I am who I am today because of my parents who were heavily involved in my education back home in Africa. I remember my dad would walk to school and ask my teachers how I'm doing in classes because they didn't have any language barrier. But today we have lots of dropouts in our immigrant community because of the challenges we face at schools and because you guys are not beside us and not trying to understand us.
We are the largest number of immigrants in Columbus, Ohio, and we have the biggest number of ESL students in the district, yet we have zero representation in our Columbus City School District. Our families feel unwelcome from the beginning of the process at the Center of Enrollment, Office of Engagement, Office of Communication, simply because they don't speak English. The language of our parents doesn't mean we're not part of the district. We are citizens as well as taxpayers, and we voted for you. My team and I have voluntarily worked with Ms. Gillison for almost 2 years, hoping for change. We need someone who speaks our language in the Center of Enrollment. We need someone in the Office of Engagement. We need a cultural broker. We need a community liaison. Providing interpretation is great, but not the solution for the problems we face in the school district. We need to be on the table where the decisions are made for the ESL students as well as the parents. 4 minutes is not enough to conclude all the challenges our parents encounter at the school district, but I believe I presented you a glimpse of some of the challenges we face from the district. I want to thank you for all you do to help the children of our district. Thank you.
Colleagues, are there clarifying questions for the speakers? Board Member Gibbs?
Yes. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for sharing. My question is, what can we do to make you feel more welcomed?
I personally believe that originally when I went to Ohio State, I was an English major. I wanted to be a teacher, but now I've changed my passion, and I want to pursue MPA in my master's. But originally when I wanted to be a teacher, I believed through education, through understanding, through like trying to understand basically and educating others, you can actually eradicate ignorance. You can change a lot of perceptions, you know what I mean? And I think it goes both ways. It's a two-way traffic. You know, it's not just us who are trying to get help. You guys have to also reach out to us and try to understand where we're coming from. And I think through education, you can do that.
And also, just to add on top of that, the main reason why we created this organization is to create a channel between the community and the district as well. So if you utilize our organization, we will be that channel. Thank you. Any other question?
One more.
I'm sorry, can I clarify? The education part that I was talking about is educate yourselves about our cultural background, where we came from, who we are, you know what I mean? That we, when we're speaking, like, you know how when a Russian person is talking, they seem like they're rude, but they're really not. That's how they talk. But I've noticed that a lot of Americans actually have these really negative perceptions about us, but it's because they don't really try to understand us. You know, they assume that we're ignorant. They assume that we're, you know, we are rude, or we're not trying to, you know, assimilate into this culture, but we really are trying our best. But I feel like you guys are not, you know?
So in your conversations, and I'm glad you came to the board, are there any policies you would want us to look at or address that would make working with our students and our Somali students better? Are there any policies that you think you would want us to change, or something that we can do in the policy realm that would help us reach common ground?
Yes. Some of the stuff that I just mentioned, for example, if you look at the great state of Minnesota, they have cultural breakers. The reason why the kids in Minnesota are like progressing is because of like the community is involved. The district, I mean, is involved with the community. So we want you guys to take an example from Minnesota, and also by providing us with cultural brokers as well as community liaison, and also we want to be part of the office. Like, for example, Ms. Gillison's team, the engagement, Office of Engagement. If we're not there, so, I mean, how would you reach to the community? We want to be part of the team.
Which city in Minnesota? Minneapolis?
City of Minneapolis. Yeah, they are. It seems like the Americans over there are more welcoming. I don't mean to say anything negative about Ohioans, but I feel like the culture here in Ohio is a little bit different. I don't know what it is and why that is. There are a lot of barriers, a lot of obstacles here for us. But in Minnesota, all the Somalis are prospering. They are in every level of the government. They are in, you know, the Board of Education, like up to like Ilhan Omar, you know what I mean? So we are not able to do that here, and I think it's because of the, you know, the culture here, and a lot of Somalis feel that way.
Other clarifying questions, Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. Assalamu alaikum. Mahasanid. What engagement has taken place with the district thus far? You mentioned that there's been some work over the past 2 years done in collaboration with Ms. Gillison and her staff.
So some of the stuff that we worked with Ms. Gillison was coming up with English Learners Tour. So I believe August 14, we went to like Northland High School just to listen to the outcry of the parents. So we have taken down a lot of notes from them. We have learned a lot, and right now it's time for us to like give them the changes that they requested, like some of the challenges that they face. So we need to come up with a solution as a team, and we want to be part of that, the team as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next speaker is John Coniglio. Topic, Reading Improvement Monitoring Plan, RIMP, cut score. Board action requested reconsider the cut score for the beginning of the year MAP test. President Coniglio, good evening.
Good evening. Okay, sorry, got a whole bunch of letters for you guys to deliver to you. So, Honorable President Gary Baker, Vice President Cole, Honorable Board members, and Superintendent Dixon, I have an open letter from the Columbus City Schools third grade teachers for you guys that I'd like to present to you now. You can help me out, Dr. Stanford? All right, thank you, sir. I do appreciate that. Good afternoon. My name is John Caniglio. I'm the president of the Columbus Education Association. Our union represents over 4,000 teachers, nurses, social workers, counselors, and other certified staff in Columbus City Schools. I want to thank all the third grade teachers and CEA members for being here with me today as we discuss a serious issue affecting Columbus students. We are here because our district has decided unilaterally to raise the cut score on the beginning of the year reading assessment for third graders from the state mandated 181 to 212. The drastic change is not about raising standards, as the end of the year's cut score hasn't changed and no additional resources will be offered. In fact, administrators have confirmed to our union that the sole purpose of this change is to avoid a deduction on a deeply flawed Ohio school report card. Currently, each student who tests on grade level at the beginning of the year and then does not pass the third grade English language arts state test causes the district to have a deduction on the K-3 literacy component of the state report card. Sadly, our district's answer to this is not to provide more resources for students. It's to do an end around the system by raising the bar so high on the beginning of the year assessment that no deductions can be made if they don't pass the end of the year assessment. The short-sighted strategy will have three harmful effects on our students. First, a portion of our third grade students will be labeled as off track and having reading deficiencies when in fact they are on track and they've met or exceed state standards. Second, third grade teachers will be forced to complete a reading and instruction monitoring plan known as a RIMP for every student who falls below the new cut score, taking away valuable instruction time, compounding the huge problem already caused by over-testing. The Ohio Department of Education is clear. A RIMP is specifically designed for students who is, quote, not on track at reading below grade level. The new CCS policy will put students reading at a 6th grade level at the beginning of 3rd grade on a RIMP. Finally, less resources will be available for students who truly do need reading assistance because they will not, now be shared with students on phony, unnecessary RIMPs. Once again, no additional resources are being offered to assist students or teachers. If these same students had the same scores as a wealthy suburb, parents would be told that they are on track. However, because they live in Columbus, they are now being labeled as deficient. We demand that the district re-examine this policy and refuse to let a deeply flawed state report card apply misleading labels to the students while taking resources from students who truly need them. Thank you, and I just want to say that the Columbus Education Association is always willing to work collaboratively to make sure that our students get the best possible education. I will take any questions, and if I don't know the answer, I have 3rd grade teachers back here who would be more than happy to help me out.
President Caniglio, thank you very much for being here this evening. Are there clarifying questions, colleagues? Board Member Adair.
Yes, I actually have several. And first, let me thank the 3rd grade teachers who are in the back of the room, as well as you, President Caniglio, for representing them. My questions are actually directed towards the board chair to the superintendent, if possible, just to have more clarity on what we're doing as a district. I had to write them down because I wanted to make sure I had them correct. My first question is, why is it that we are putting 3rd graders on RIMPs when they are meeting the MAP score of 181 at the beginning of the year? Why are they going on the RIMPs if they're meeting? The second question I had was, for the MAP or for the scores, there's a difference in scoring between a promotion score and a proficient score, and if that could be explained. And the third one is, how did we as a district decide on a cut score of 211? 212.
That one too.
Whoa. How did we decide on the cut score? Whatever number that is. And what is the difference between on track and not on track? Now, why I ask this is because as a parent, this actually happened to my student last year. I received a letter where I was told that she needed to go on a RIMP, but I was told by classroom teachers that she was reading at a 3rd grade level, a 5th grade level. And so as a parent, I was very confused by the entire process. And so I would just like to make sure that, we are also providing our parents with information so that they understand when they're receiving these letters, because I know some parents are receiving letters, what that means specifically for their student. That wasn't a question, that was a comment. And I'm sorry, because that wasn't what I was supposed to do. But I had to share that as well. So I understand from personal experience. So those are my 4 questions. I don't know if they can be addressed now.
Okay. Thank you, Board Member Adair. Superintendent, did you get all those?
Yes.
Okay.
So I would like at this time to call up Dr. Michelle Klein. If she would come up, please. She's the Chief of Data and Assessment, and she will address those questions.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon, to Board President Baker, and to Board Member Adair. The first question that I wrote down, you said as fast as I could, was why would we put an on-track reader in 3rd grade on a RIMP? Am I correct? Thank you. So this is an opportunity for us to provide an additional safety net and interventions for students and accelerate their learning and literacy even further than they are now. The combination of the expert teacher and the parent working together on this plan strengthens the opportunity for success. This strategy ensures that our 3rd graders students have early interventions to ensure they reach a proficient score of 700 on their OST or Ohio State test in English Language Arts by the end of 3rd grade, and thereby having an opportunity to be a 4th grade on-track student. We want to ensure that our students demonstrate mastery of not only our curriculum, but of all the Ohio learning standards as well. So one of the things that you shared was, as a parent, you had been in that situation, and I want to address that so we can always get better. So I'd like to work with our CEA partnership and make sure we address things. So having things like videos that was suggested to me this afternoon to inform our parents and help their understanding grow would be a great idea, and I would welcome CEA's partnership in that. It is not an easy thing to look at any of these cut scores for anybody, but what is important is that we are after the best for our children, and we will not settle for a promotion rate. We want a proficient rate.
Okay. And I
think another question, I'm sorry.
I do believe that was question number 2, promotion versus proficient. What's the difference?
So promotion versus proficient. So a promotion rate is a rate established by the Ohio Department of Education, and it can be their OST score, their Ohio State's ELA score, or it can be their formative assessment. We use MAP in our district, so it could be either score, or it could actually be the reading subscale. So there are a bunch of different numbers. A 683 is a promotion rate for the OST. A 700 is proficient. But if all you want is promotion rates, you're not really ready for 4th grade. So I would caution us, because promotion is not what we're after. We're after proficiency. On the NWA map, a 194 is a promotion score. And of course, the 700 is the proficient mark that we want to look at by the end of 3rd grade. Now remember, we can work together on this with the Ohio State's test. The 3rd graders take it in October, and they're expected to get a 700 then, or they're off track. Now, when I was in 3rd grade at Arlington Park Elementary in Columbus Public Schools, and I was on track in 3rd grade, that doesn't mean that I should be given an end-of-the-year 3rd grade test and be expected to pass it, because I've got 6 more months of an expert teacher helping me teach, helping me learn. And so it is something that we can band together and try to change and make sure that we advocate to our legislators and to our Ohio Department of Education. And I hope that we will be joined by our union partners in this, because I think we have great teachers doing wonderful things, and we certainly want to take their input into consideration.
And the third one I wrote down is, how did we decide on 212 as the cut score?
Dr. Dixon, if I may. So this is a great question. So we actually took a look at our boy data from last year, And we actually did a data analysis and a positive correlation study to find out the positive trajectory of students that were at a 212 or above, and what their likelihood was of actually being proficient at 700 or above. That score ended up to be 89.93%. And we took a look at that data. That was with their OST and their NWA MAP test. We also looked at their end of the year score. So remember, you can pass the beginning of the year, you can pass the middle of the year using your NWA MAP score, you can pass the end of the year with your OST or MAP score, or you can even take a MAP in the summer or an OST in the summer as well. And so when we took all that into consideration and looked at 212 and above, which is our exact data from last year, we found out that the correlation rose to 98.93%. And so therefore, we want to ensure that our students demonstrate mastery of our curriculum and of the Ohio Learning Standards.
And Madam Superintendent, the fourth one I wrote down from Board Member Adair was on track versus not on track.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. To Board Member Adair's question, on track and not on track, one of the things that the state of Ohio allows us to do is actually take students that are on track, like some of our third graders that reach between a 181 and a 211, and actually give them a RIMP. This means that a student could be on track, but could still be on a RIMP. It allows us to do that. And it does not specify a score. It is up to the district to then make that decision. We've made that decision based on our data because we want to ensure that every possible intervention is given to that student to ensure their success on that OST ELA test by the end of the year.
Thank you. Did that answer your questions, Board Member Adair? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Klein.
Thank
Board
you.
Member Ragland.
Certainly. Dr. Klein, what percentage of our students tested proficient last school year?
You know, I don't quote numbers unless I have the exact one, but it's very low, but I will look that up for you and get that back to you. Are you talking about proficient just in ELA?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will look that up and have it back for you in just a minute, but I don't have that in my exact notes here.
Okay.
It's very low. We're not even close to the 80%.
Okay, we're not close to the 80%.
No, sir, we're not.
So could it be said that we're kind of raising the bar with what we're doing? I mean, it seems, if you could explain to me what the intervention entails.
Sure, so I'll have Dr. Ocasio come up and talk about that, but before I do, if I could just elaborate on one point. It's so important that we allow our teachers to provide an appropriate intervention for every student's reading needs. Not necessarily call it a deficiency, but enrich as well. If you look at our performance index scores, I know Dr. Dixon has looked at them specifically, we can take students that are basic and move into proficient and move into accelerated and so forth and so on. And that's what we need to target ourselves to be able to do, not to just settle for a promotion rate. Dr. Ocasio?
So good evening. I did not prepare anything, so I want to let you know that in advance. One of the things that we would like to do, and this is really in an effort to assure that teachers have the resources they need, and I do appreciate Mr. Coniglio's remark that, you know, without extra resources, it's just another mandate, and I believe that. One of the things that we are looking at doing right now, and we've just had some of these meetings, we're bringing in larger groups of stakeholders as well. We are creating or recreating, actually, because it started in 2002 with Torgerson and Hayes down in Florida, an intervention decision-making tree so that teachers are able to pull this quickly and they can look at their data. We're looking at the data sources that we're using to make sure that we're doing targeted assessments so that students are being given only the assessments that inform instruction, and that we're able then to respond using these types of tools, a decision-making tree, so that a teacher can look at, is this a particular type of issue? For example, for reading, is it, especially in third grade, is it a phonics issue? Because we know that students that have to spend an enormous amount of time decoding print are not able to process, and these these assessments measure whether or not I can understand what I'm reading. I don't have the ability to switch my attention if I have to spend that kind of time just to understand what the words actually are. So one of the things that we're looking to do for teachers, as well as in our buildings for our students ultimately, is have appropriate programs at the core level, the supplemental level, and then the targeted intervention that's more intense. So we're looking at putting in a very systematic phonics instruction program in kindergarten and first grade first, so that kids are able to master those types of skills. Because if I can't master that, I don't become a reader, not an efficient reader that's able to pass a test such as these, which measure my ability to comprehend. And we've spent a lot of time working with some of our support staff to understand this is what the standard's asking for, and how do I triangulate that? If I have a student that has difficulty, just attending to print, what are some of the ways that I can get them to do that level of thinking, the comprehension level, but give them some assisted reading? So we're working on multiple opportunities to give teachers resources that if their assessment data says this, it's almost like a flow chart. Here's what you can do with that assessment data. We're also hoping that by putting that phonics instruction in there, we're going to reduce the number of RIMPs that are required, because that's really part of this. It's falling out in third grade because there's some things that students needed to master before the third grade teachers receive those students, and we want to make that job a little bit easier for those teachers. The standards for comprehension in third grade are immensely more difficult and challenging at that level, because we're starting now to talk about main idea. And it's really hard for a third grade teacher to focus in on main idea for a student that cannot comprehend or decode print. And so we're looking at not just what we can do at the third grade level, but how can we help their colleagues at earlier grade levels with good, rich resources. This district has not had a curriculum adoption in ELA in several years. It's been, I think the last was 2007. That's a terrible thing to say. And so one of the things that we're doing, and we're going to talk more in the next presentation, we're revitalizing the curriculum adoption cycle. We want to bring that back. And today we're going to look at, or this year we're going to look at, and it does feel like we're doing it today, because I'm kind of one of those people that we got to get done right now. So one of the things that we're looking to do is find great resources for ELA, adopt a good program, but not just ELA, also for math, because math isn't that much better. We need to give our teachers great resources that meet the standards today. 2007, we weren't even thinking about these types of standards. They've changed that much. And so I think that we need to, I agree with Mr. Coniglio. We need to really look at how do we support our teachers, because no teacher should have to go home and develop curriculum on the weekend. No teacher should have to write multiple plans because we hadn't given something that we needed to give so that the teachers before them could give good instruction to meet the demands of what's happening in the standards. So our biggest focus this year is really how do we give teachers good materials, or strong materials, adopt and align those that are appropriate to help reduce this need. We also want to look at ways to invest in our human capital, help our teachers look at these standards in a different way. And then we also, thirdly, want to look at structures. What are ways that we can increase instructional opportunities for students? And you're going to hear that in our next presentation.
Mr. Reagan?
Thank you. So it seems as if our academic leaders are firmly behind this plan. I guess my question would be back to clarify from Mr. Coniglio. What resources do you feel that you need to implement the plan as it has been proposed to you?
A tree or a chart is not an answer. We are professionals. We know how to teach reading. If you want to have what you probably would need to do is invest in resources in first and second grade. If you want to have third graders reading at a sixth grade level at the beginning of third grade, right? That's what you would need to do. And the fact is that a RIMP is for, the purpose of a RIMP is for deficient readers. So we're not saying that teachers shouldn't be improving their instruction. What we're saying is that you're labeling kids as deficient when they're not, and the purpose of a RIMP is for those that are the students that are deficient. So the spirit of ODE's law is saying, yes, write a RIMP for deficient readers. This is not about that. This is about gaming the system. And that's basically what it is. We have high expectations as teachers, and we know how to teach reading. And a tree is not going to solve the problem.
I'd like a proactive answer if I could have that. I know you don't necessarily agree
Well,
with the truth.
I will say this. I have third grade teachers right here, if you would like some of them to come up and tell you what they need.
Yeah, I think
Right.
because the way I'm understanding this, our leaders have decided that this is the approach that we're going to take.
Well, because you're going to get dinged on a report card if
Well,
you don't take this approach.
I'm hearing that we're going to have an opportunity to have more readers at the third grade level who are prepared to move to fourth grade and be successful.
No.
Am I?
Hi, my name is Rachel Consitis. I'm a third grade teacher at Winterset Elementary School. Teachers need time to teach. And the fact that we all have our entire classes on RIMP plans now means that we are spending our time filling out bureaucratic paperwork instead of planning lessons. We have wonderful reading programs and materials in our buildings. We have had high-quality professional development on how to teach reading from Ohio State University and Literacy Collaborative. We do not have time to plan small group lessons and to use the information that you guys have paid for us to get. You guys have paid for us to get tens, hundreds of $1,000s in professional development from Ohio State through the years. We can't use that knowledge because we're filling out paperwork. I estimate it probably takes me, and I'm good with computers, and I'm fairly quick at filling these out, about 30 minutes to write a single beginning of the year RIMP plan for my students. I have 2 classes because I team teach. So that is 16 to 20 hours of paperwork that I have to do that takes away from my students, takes away from interventions of the students who actually need it. I have 3/4 or more of my class on a RIMP plan that should not be on a RIMP plan according to the Department of Education. But because they are on a RIMP plan, I have to progress monitor them every 2 weeks instead of instructing them. Which means when I have to spend all this extra time progress monitoring students who are not off track, they are on track, I can't provide intervention to my students who are scoring in the first and second percentile on MAP, who desperately need one-on-one intervention from their teachers, and their teachers do not have time because we're filling out useless bureaucratic paperwork that we should not have to. Any questions?
Questions? Board Member Gibbs?
President Baker, I was going to suggest while we're hearing this conversation that we invite Ms. Benita Smith to who's already at the podium, to just, so we can respond all at one time. But you're already there.
Good evening. I was speaker number 5.
She's speaker number 5.
So good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bohoric, Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Dr. Dixon. My name is Benita Wright Smith, and I've been a teacher for Columbus City Schools for 31 years, and I am currently a third grade teacher. As you have heard my colleagues and Mr. Caniglio state, my purpose here is to talk about the cut score being raised from 181 to 212. They have already mentioned how this puts children who are deemed on track now as off track. This creates a lot of, my notes are all, I had points laid out, but they've covered most of them. But again, this now requires that every single third grader in this district is on a RIMP. Every single one. Third grader is on a RIMP. The process, as Rachel said, is a minimum of 30 to 45 minutes per student to create this RIMP that is 5 pages long, whereas in other districts, it is 1 to 2 pages maximum. So not only is our RIMP being now given to every third grader, it is now twice as long as other districts who have a lower cut score of between 181 and 191. So our teachers are doing more work for students who don't even need to be on a RIMP. This also creates frustration with parents, as our Somalian community members just shared with you how they do not feel a part of this community. The RIMP is only available in English. And so we send a letter home notifying parents that their student is on a RIMP that they cannot read. The RIMP is not available in Spanish or any other language other than English. And so this takes teachers, if we're averaging 45 minutes per student with a generous class size of 25 students each, that's 18.75 hours for them to complete. And this is not happening during our contractual day. So this is 18 hours that teachers are spending outside of their workday to create a document for, quite frankly, for students who don't necessarily need it. And I have witnessed students who are now going to increase their anxiety level because now they have thought this time that they are a proficient reader, and now they're being told that they are not. And so these students become physically ill when it is time to take these tests. They cry. I witnessed a student this summer at summer school who, when he found out he did not meet the cutoff score after the 6th attempt at taking this test, tell his parent that he was sorry that he was letting them down. And no 8 or 9-year-old child should have to feel the burden of telling their parent that they are sorry for letting them down for not passing this test. And so I have 1 minute left, but third grade was my favorite grade when I was in school, and it has now become the least popular grade in this district to teach. There are teachers who have taught third grade previously who are literally, when postings come up, are trying to get out of third grade because of the requirements of the RIMP, because of the requirements of the 3G-RG, and because of the stress that it puts on students, teachers, and parents. And so we are now going to spend our time that we could use for planning, valuable instruction, and intervention for students who actually need it for students who do not. Thank you.
Are there clarifying questions for Ms. Smith? Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown? Ladies first. Board Member Adair? Have you?
Mr. Cole.
Vice President Cole. How
Thank
kind.
you. Thank you, Mr. President. This, again, much like Mr. Adair's question, would be directed to you to be answered by the administration. What is the actual percentage of students who would otherwise qualify for a RIMP? What is the actual percentage of students who actually need this service, these additional resources, in comparison to what is being asked for now for all of our students?
We'll get that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess as I listen to this discussion, there's a couple of things that occur to me. Number one, perhaps most important, is that I love that we are using this time to talk about kids and what's best for our students and what's best for their education. That everybody in this room, everybody that has spoken, is united in wanting to make sure that our students are learning and well prepared and doing the right things for them. That's a great starting point. It's a great starting point for what school board meetings should focus on. At the same time, and I said this to CEA when I first heard about this matter, and listening to the discussion, I have the same feeling, is that as well-educated as I am, law degree, post-judicial training, all kinds of things, I am not equipped to answer any of these questions. That is not our role. Nobody here is a professional educator like you are, like our administrators. And I want to make sure that our administrators thoughtfully consider the issues, thoughtfully consider the issues that you and Mr. Coniglio and the others have brought up, and then they are empowered to make a decision on this. And that's as things should be. I'm happy to see that there's conversation and about important matters, and these are. And I appreciate, the interest and enthusiasm with which these matters are being addressed. That's all good, and I think we could all agree on that. But at the end of the day, after everybody has been heard, the concerns have been expressed, the issues have been thoughtfully considered, a decision needs to be made ultimately by Dr. Dixon. Obviously, and people working for her. And then we'll move forward. If as we move forward, there are adjustments needed or unforeseen consequences or things, then we have to make sure that those too are addressed. We hold Dr. Dixon accountable for all of this and, expect that that will be done well. To the extent that there is any confusion among parents, we need to address that too, whether those are Somali parents or any parents. And I think that for some, it may take a little bit of time to be able to fully understand what's going on here. As I said, I struggle with it the first time, and I've now been through it a few times, so I understand it generally, but I don't bring your training to the discussion. So, I know that this is a professional education issue that needs to be addressed and resolved by the people that, need to do that, but I thank you for bringing the matter to our attention.
A follow-up, Mr. Ragland? Okay, and then Board Member Gibbs.
At the surface, this seems to me like it's not necessarily a conversation. From my understanding, this is a directive. This has been told that this is the approach that we're going to take as an administration. It was a directive given to our teaching staff to take this approach based off leadership's decision that has already been made, that this is what we're going to do. And I guess that is a question of clarity that would go to Dr. Dixon, because I don't think we're being asked to make a decision about the viability of this. I think we're being asked, to provide the resources necessary to make this go the way that our superintendent intends for it to go. And I think that's kind of my question of clarity here, because I don't think this is we're making a decision about whether or not we're going to do this now. That decision's been made. So how do we do it and make it effective for our young people? Am I wrong with that?
You're absolutely correct. So the decision was made, the conversation took place between administration and members of CEA.
Please proceed, Superintendent.
The decision was made with conversation with our administrative team and members of CEA. And this was what we decided. Now, the concern is that I'm hearing from our staff is that this pathway needs more resources, and it's taking time away from our teachers to doing what they need to do. That's what I'm hearing. Right. So no one is saying, I didn't hear anyone saying that that we don't want our students to master reading. We don't want our third graders reading proficiently. No one is saying that. I think overall this is a mandate from the state, right? Not a state mandate, I'm sorry, but the third grade reading guarantee, right? And that, right. So, and that we are trying to make sure that we have safety nets. How do we identify students early? And our teachers are saying that our students, it is not allowing us to identify students early, it's identifying students incorrectly.
Well, it's also saying that we have increased and there's nothing wrong with increasing expectations.
Right.
But to raise it 31 points,
Right.
so that a beginning of the year third grader is now expected to meet a beginning of the year sixth grader, where some of our sixth graders are not even reaching a 212,
Right.
I think is quite unrealistic for our students to reach. In districts across Central Ohio, the cut score ranges from 181 to the highest of 191, and we are at 212.
Right.
We are at 212 with no additional resources for
Correct. So-
teachers to complete.
Exactly. So I
The
think
rents.
that's right. So we're not saying we want to lower expectations, we want higher expectations, but we need the resources to go along with this. Is that what I'm hearing?
But I'm also saying that one of the most wealthy counties, their cut score is 191. And we are a large urban district with a significant poor population of students, and we have raised the cut score higher than some of our most affluent students in the state of Ohio. So I think our students clearly start at a disadvantage from their zip code and to even meet the 181, and now we are expecting that to go 31 points higher than our resources allow. And by resources, I mean time for teachers. As Rachel stated, we are now going to have to progress monitor every student every 2 weeks. And that is on a district-provided test, but it's every 2 weeks. So I have 23 students. 4 or 5 of them technically do not need to be on RIMS because they have met the cut score of 181. So now I'm going to add them to an assessment that they probably really don't need. Is it good to check their progress? Absolutely.
Right.
But to now be required to do that every 2 weeks when I've got 16 or 17 other students who need more intervention and more of my time in planning instruction, they're not going to get that.
Right. And as you and the other teacher before have articulated, and John, it is not our intent to bring hardships on our teachers. That is not our intent.
But that's what is happening.
Right. I hear that, but it's not our intent, right? But we are saying that we want to provide our students with the best. If we need to go back and say, you know what, we need some additional resources, and then we have that conversation and provide the resources. If we haven't done that well, then we need to go back and have that conversation again. And we keep having the conversations until we get it right. But I don't want anyone in this room to think that we are setting expectations that our kids can't achieve. Right? And I know that's not what you're saying. But I hear you, and I hear you saying, listen, we want additional resources. We want more time. We don't want to spend our weekends doing this when there are some other approaches that we can take. As Dr. Ocasio stated, we're going to go back and look at curriculum. There are a lot of things that we can do for next steps. And we will take those next steps. We will have Dr. Klein, we will convene a team. If you would like to serve on that team, we'll have some other members of the team, of our administrative team, serve on that team until we get it right.
Thank you. I appreciate that sentiment, but at the end of the day, you do have teachers who have added burdens of completing these. We did. We had a day off from school today, and there are a number of teachers who spent their day working on RIMS. We have 60 days to complete those from the time that students are diagnosed, and so you compound that 18 hours on top of your contractual day, your family obligations. You have added stress to teachers.
Okay. So we acknowledge that the decision that we've made may not have been in best interest of all parties. We've acknowledged that. And we've acknowledged that we're going to go back. We're going to have some conversations with teachers at the table. with our team to come up with another solution, right? So if we can commit to that, and whoever wants to volunteer and sit on that team, I see somebody raise their hand, thank you. And we would get our team members to gather their names, and we'll set up a meeting, and we'll go back to the table. But at the end of the day, we want just like you, we want our students reading. You know, when we look at our performance scores right now, our students are not reading proficiently. They're not. And so we have to, one, face the brutal facts of where our students are. That's why one of the strategies this year is to go after reading and mathematics, right? Because we know where our students are district-wide, but we also know that our students can do better if we have the right strategy and the right resources. And that's where we intend to do it. If we have to, and I hear talking, I'm just, disrespectfully, we just kind of keep our comments into the end. But if we can continue to work together, that's it. Work together with the strategy that we're going to make sure that our kids have everything that they need, and to make sure the staff have everything that we need. That is the way that we will become the best district. And if we can do that as respectfully and professionally from here on out, whatever happened in the past is the past. But we can do this, team. I know that we can do this. We have the right people in the right places to get this right, and we will. So again, please sign up who wants to come and sit with our team to develop next steps. I see some volunteers. I hope you have 30 years in this. You know it.
31.
31 years. Thank you.
I just want to get that
Thank you.
one
Right,
in
right,
there.
but get it. But you have 31 years of expertise. These mandates, as Dr. Ocasio stated, I mean, they are what they are, right? So there's on one hand, but the other piece is we know that we want what's best for our kids. We know that we have the teachers who can make sure that happens. We just got to come together and work together on what that plan of execution will look like. And that's what I'm asking us to do, and do it together. Thank you, Mr. Coniglio, for, hold just a second, just thank you for continuing to be working collaboratively with us. I thank you for your advocacy, even though we don't always agree on everything, but I know that you and Phil are working on what's best for our teachers, and we're all working on what's best for our kids. So even when we don't agree, please, let's continue to dialogue and work on next steps, but know that we all have the same end goal in mind, and that's the best academic performances of our kids and support for our teachers.
So, Dr. Dixon, let's just be clear. I think everything that you said is great. However, remember that the sole purpose of this change was...
President Coniglio, please suspend. President Coniglio, please suspend. I thank you.
You out of order.
All right, colleagues, are there any other
Yes, I have a
clarifying questions for Ms. Smith? Clarifying questions
Not
for...
Ms. Smith. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Thank you. Say hi. I
Yes,
have a
ma'am, Ms.
question.
Gibbs.
Thank you so much. And not for you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I appreciate all of you and all of your concerns. This is my question. Dr. Dixon, and my question for... Are we good? Oh, y'all leaving?
I
Okay.
just want to make sure that the teachers give their names to Dr. Klein as she's going out in the hallway. If you can sign up and give her your name so you can serve on that team, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because I have a question about the reading plans that's a little bit different. We have a cut score and a trigger for when students need help. And what you're saying is that that's under 212, right? If you score under 212, that triggers a rent plan. Is that what we're saying? My question is this: what is the trigger? What number do we know for our gifted and advanced students that they're not moving forward? That's the question I have.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll note that and give that information.
You'll bring that? Because as we're talking about reading plans, I want to make sure as we're catching our lowest performing readers, I want to understand where do we catch where our gifted and advanced readers are being stagnant and we're not moving them forward as well. So in that conversation, could you bring that back? And I know we have a very robust academic conversation that I really do want to get to and want to understand that data and that strategy as well. So thank you, President Baker.
Thank you, Gibbs. Are there other clarifying questions for the last speaker? Board Member Adair.
Like to ask Dr. Dixon, in considering adding teachers to this group who may not be in the room, who have been doing full class RIMPs for several years, because I understand that there are schools in our district that this has been an everyday practice for them. So making sure their voices are included, I think would be helpful.
Are there any other clarifying questions for the last speaker? Okay. Thank you to all of you who came down to address the board this evening. We appreciate you taking the time to do so. And that concludes public comment. Next, I'd like to turn to an issue that I know is weighing heavy on all of our hearts, and that is the passing of Elizabeth Robertson Rutland. Lizzie, as she was known, was a student at Sherwood Middle School. She was bright, caring, outgoing, and beloved by her classmates, teachers, and staff at Sherwood. Today was her celebration of life service. And I know that Vice President Cole and Mr. Ragland and I had the opportunity to attend. It was an amazing service, full of joy and celebration. I know I speak for every member of the board as well as the superintendent and all of our administrators, teachers, and staff in offering our deepest sympathies to Lizzie's family and to her Sherwood Middle School family. And at this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in honor of Lizzie and for each of us to consider her and her family in our own thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, notice of public hearing on reemployment of retired employees. There's no action for the board to take on items 5.1, 2, and 3. This is state mandated notice of the public hearing for the employees who are named on the agenda. Let's move on then to item 6, which is the report from our superintendent. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, President Baker. As you indicated, student safety is always top of mind in every policy and procedure developed and implemented at all levels throughout the district. And indeed, as it pertains to the safety of our students walking to and from school and bus stops, this is an ongoing effort, not a one-and-done decision, but rather a constant review process by multiple district departments. So on Friday, September 20th, I convened a multi-department team to discuss ongoing safety policies and procedures and to review possible next steps. This included the directors of safety, transportation, operations, and communications. As a result, we are developing a 3-point plan to implement, and this 3-point plan includes the following. First, we're going to expand bus safety training in the K-12 curriculum. Currently, we train all K-3 students on bus safety at the beginning of the school year in alignment with the Ohio Department of Education guidelines. However, we believe increasing this curriculum for all students is in order. Second, review our safe routes to school. We have had ongoing discussions with the City of Columbus, including the mayor and his cabinet members, department directors, and city council. As recently as yesterday afternoon, our directors of safety, transportation, communication, and legislative affairs joined a conference call with the members of the mayor's office, Department of Public Service, Safe Routes to School coordinators, and communications. Among a number of strategies, it was agreed that quarterly meetings will be established with safety, transportation, public service, and communications for ongoing review of data to determine best policies and procedures impacting safe routes to schools, including sidewalk gaps. We have reviewed the city's policies and plans for investing in sidewalks and pedestrian safety. As you know, in many cases, many communities and neighborhoods that lack sidewalks in which our schools are located were developed before they were annexed into the city of Columbus. And at the time of development, sidewalks were not required. The city of Columbus has planned for filling these gaps project by project as the city identifies the priority needs and funding sources to do so. Last week, my office provided you with an overview of how the city determines areas for sidewalks installation and their current capital improvement plan for doing so. In your briefing packet today, an additional one-page supplement has been provided by the city about determining needs for sidewalks and other safety infrastructure. We also will be exploring funding for a CCS and city partnership to provide safety reflectors, vests, or other safety items to the students that we transport. We will explore if grant funds are available and city and CCS funds. As you know, we have over 4,000 bus stops and transport 40,000 students every day from CCS, non-public, and charter schools. We're exploring the possibilities of sidewalks in key business areas like McNaughton, in which it may be sometime before sidewalks can be added by the city. However, this is a process that is governed not only by city traffic rules and regulation, but also by ODOT rules and regulations. In addition to funding for crosswalks, we would need to explore funding for crossing guard training and planning. And finally, the third prong of this three-point plan, which I believe is a critical strategy, is to educate the community about bus stop safety. This would be a critical undertaking. We will partner with the City of Columbus and other partners, including potential businesses who may be interested in working on the community education effort. Through PSAs, parent and community communications, and other key strategies, we will work to educate drivers about driving in the morning and afternoon when our students are present, slowing down for students, and understanding school bus protocol. The goal is to impact driver safety-related behavior. So, President Baker, this is a summary of my report and ongoing work regarding student safety to and from school and from bus stops.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Are there questions on that part of the superintendent's report? Ms. Gibbs.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for the due diligence on that. As you know, bus safety, pedestrian safety is and has been one of my number one priorities at the table. A lot of this has rocked our community the same way it has hurt us in years before, when we lost a Woodward Park student, when we lost the Briggs student, when we lost a number of children throughout the years, whether it was crossing or the lights not being on. When can we expect the report back to the community? We have a very big fear in the greater community that this is going to end up in reports and task force, and there won't be any tangible action. What can we tell the community of when we can expect it, or how will you plan to keep us updated on the progress so it doesn't die and it's death by meeting.
Thank you. I will continue to update you weekly. We have several things in motion now, and once they are confirmed, I would immediately notify the board. But our goal is to make sure that we put some things in place immediately, and we've been working with the team, and the city has been a great partner in this work. And we're going to do what's best and what's right for our students, but all the students in the city of Columbus, not just Columbus City Schools, but in the city of Columbus.
I want to take this opportunity to thank our bus drivers and to recognize, and I know in fact we lost one last week, so our condolences to our transportation team, and thank them for the thousands and thousands of routes that they do every day. And we know that this, of all the things you do, it comes down to this one big piece, and it seems as if though they're not taking advantage. But as you continue your report, I would ask if you would provide for us and for the community ways they can volunteer from where they are to be crossing guards or provide bus safety in the interim. If you provide doors and opportunities of engagement, and I know we have an amazing Director of Partnerships in Alicia Gillison, but both you and however, I know we need mentors, but if we need people on the street, just tell the community how and when they can help, and we'll make sure we get the word out, and I know you'll get out the word too, because people always ask, what can they do? In this instance, I want to give them an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ragland, and then Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I question, and I believe this may go to Director Smito, who may be able to take these questions back to the administration. How are school zones prioritized in the capital budget process? Where are school zones currently within the capital budget? So if you've got 50 projects that are ranked within your capital budget, where specifically are our school zones and the creation of safe routes in that capital budget process? Where are they ranked? We'd like to have that information to our educators. This is an opportunity to educate our students on the capital budget process. This is about civic engagement. In other cities where incidents, tragedies like this happen, these types of projects get moved to the top because of the advocacy that is created by the residents in those communities, because they know and understand the process. I want you to hear me clearly when I say that. And what we need to do is educate ourselves about the process by which we can get from having meetings, like Board Member Gibbs has mentioned, in death by meetings of projects, to advocacy to those individuals that make these decisions and move these projects forward. I will not stand for another life to be lost. And so let's educate ourselves on the process by which we can get this done. We have 50,000 students and their families in this district. Let's be educated about the process, and then let's act on what we need to do to make certain that our school zones and safe routes to schools are our priorities. I understand the work that has already been done. Thank goodness for the PSAs that are happening. But we need to mobilize, educate ourselves, mobilize, and act. So Director Smito, if you could get that information for us so that we know where our school zones rank in the capital budget, and any information that we can use to talk to our students and their families about the capital budget process, that would be very helpful to us. Thank you, President Baker.
Dr. Smido, is that some information that you may be able to bring back to the board and perhaps share through the Office of the Superintendent? And not only the capital budget, but if there are other funds, Urban Infrastructure Recovery Fund or ULI or other funding sources that may also be set aside to fund sidewalks, let us know about that as well.
President Baker, will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board Member Brown.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, thank our administration and all of the folks that have attended to this. I know it's difficult and challenging and something that is important to all of us. We've got lots of parents throughout the community who entrust their children with us every day with the expectation that their children will come home and be safe and be cared for by people that care about them. And that's an expectation that they have not only of the schools, but also of the city and of everybody living here in this community. So I do want to thank the folks that are, that have worked on this and will continue to be working on this as a priority. Just as many other people here want to be helpful, Dr. Dixon, school board members, and I've heard this with this more than sometimes some other matters, school board members want to help. And the question is, where can we be helpful? And I'm looking to you for this. If there are policy changes that are needed or would be helpful, we've got a committee that can look at that. That happens to be within my area. If there are matters for another, for the board, I don't know that there are matters for the board because I think that our policies and guidance and all give you all the room you need to do the right things. And we support your doing that and continuing to do that. But if there are areas where either collectively as a board through action or even individually that board members can be helpful in some fashion, I would expect that you'll reach out and ask.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I think as Board Member Gibbs stated, that me updating you every week, it's something that you would know that this issue is not dead. It's important to us as a district, to the community. Until we get it right, we're going to keep working to get it right. So I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you making sure that it stays a priority.
Our interim director, Mr. Smido, to share in the weekly or in the progress updates and to support us so we can keep the good information flowing to the community.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Madam Superintendent, please continue.
So today, October 1st, Governor DeWine has declared October as FAFSA completion month for the state of Ohio. It was mentioned earlier. The application is available online and also via the mobile app. The application requires a 2018 tax information, so families should be ready to complete. I Know I Can will host a FAFSA workshop at every CCS high school during the months of October and November. CCS families may register to attend any workshop at any location. FAFSA workshops registration is also on the I Know I Can website at knowican.org. For additional help, students should contact their I Know I Can college advisor manager. We have one in every high school. If you remember at our board meeting last month, I stated our goal of 100% of our college-bound seniors to complete the FAFSA this year. And we're looking forward to partnering with I Know I Can to accomplish this goal. Our Reach Higher. all seniors and in a convocation. It was amazing experience. It was energizing, and was so excited to kick off the event. So wanted to remind our students of this very special day. And then last, I asked the board, could the first meeting of the month be dedicated just to me, and if my colleagues didn't mind, if they didn't present, if I just presented on the first Monday so that we could have more time to discuss these strategic priorities. So tonight we're going to start that. I have a team of 3 that are going to come up, and we're going to have a data presentation. And it's just a data presentation on various data points that we believe are important that we are focusing on this year, and to give you a look at where we are with certain data points. And then the next step is what we're going to do and the results that we expect to receive. So we're going to start with Dr. Michelle Klein, and then we're going to have our new CAO, Dr. Tracy Ocasio, and our new Chief of Transformation and Leadership, Dr. Angela Chapman, would join, and the 3 of them have a presentation. And after the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and that you would see this as a ongoing strategy that I would like to take at our board meetings, that we can dig deep into this work and that priority list that you gave me this 1 year to focus on the priorities. And I would like to take these meetings and really dive deep into those. So thank you for allowing me to have this time, and thank you to my colleagues for allowing me to take this meeting to do that. Dr. Klein.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. It is indeed my privilege this evening to share with you a very high overview of the local report card as released last month, some very important data sets, and the acceleration of our school improvements, which will be shared by my teammates, Dr. Angela Chapman, Chief of Transformation and Leadership, and Dr. Tracy Ocasio, our new Chief Academic Officer. So here's the 2018-19 report card overview as you know it. The 6 components are listed there along with an overall grade of a D. Just keep in mind, someone just asked me the question about our ELA. We have 8 ELA academic indicators, and just so you know, out of those 8 ELA academic indicators, we did not achieve any of them. We had a range in score of 46% proficient down to 30% proficient for ELA. So let's take a look at those report cards as far as a district-wide count of letter grades, and this is from the overall letter grade. And you may remember that last year was our first year to have an overall letter grade. We had 0 A's, 3 B's, 34 C's, 40 D's, and 32 F's. In addition to the overall report card grades by building that you can see on the screen in front of you, you also have a handout in your Board of Education data folder specifying the schools who were given improvement status notations, as well as the schools who went from state designation schools of priority to focus and to independent. I think a lot of these schools deserve some great shout outs, so it's exciting to see all these schools move out of priority improvement status. Those schools are Highland Elementary, Leawood Elementary School, Champion Middle School, East Columbus Elementary School, Fairwood Elementary School, Wineland Park Elementary School, Mifflin Middle School, East Linden Elementary School, and South Mifflin STEM K-6. There are 3 components on the local report card in which we have showed marked improvement. They are the gap closing, an achievement indicator, and graduation rates. I'm going to illustrate for you the improvement on each of these components by the next several slides. Schools must close the achievement gaps that exist between groups of students that may be based on income, race, ethnicity, or disability. This component shows how well schools are meeting performance expectations for our most vulnerable students in English language arts, mathematics, and graduation. The green highlights show you the student groups which either closed the gap to gain points or had a value-added gain index to post points for English language arts. There's lots of green up there. The gap closing component compares the academic performance of each student group against the expected performance goals for that student group to determine if these gaps whether or not our improvement is occurring. In the state guidance, you will find a reference to subgroups. We actually prefer the term, bless you, of student group to that of subgroups, as there's a negative connotation with the word sub, which means below or beneath or imperfect. In Columbus City Schools, all of our student groups are important to us. A new element to this component, English language proficiency improvement, measures the improvement of our English language learners that they're making towards English language proficiency. This slide shows you our gap closing and value-added gains by student groups for mathematics, which earned points for the gap closing component. And next, this slide shows you our gap closing for graduation rates. Note here that our Black, non-Hispanic, multiracial, economically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities superseded their graduation goal rate by the state in order to gain additional points for our district to close the graduation gap. Please pay particular attention to this slide. We actually had a preliminary grade of an A. An A is an apple on the gap closing. However, we suffered an automatic deduction of one letter grade because in one student group, the American Indian/Alaskan Native, we had a 93.2% participation rate instead of the expected 95%. This resulted in our overall gap closing component grade moving to a B. A very special congratulations and shout outs need to go to our schools with improvement in the gap closing components of 2 or more overall letter grades within 1 year, or those in the A category. Alpine, Avondale, Binns, Broadley, Cassidy, Cedarwood, Centennial High School, Clinton, Coleraine, Columbus Afrocentric Early College High School, Columbus Alternative High School, Columbus City Prep School for Girls, Columbus Iota 6 through 12, Columbus Spanish Immersion, East Linden Elementary School, Eastmore, Fairwood, Forest Park, Gables, Highland, Hubbard, Mastery, Independence, Indian Springs, Ennis, Leawood, Marion Franklin, Mifflin, Northland, Northtown, Oakmont, Old Orchard, Parkmore, Parsons, Scottwood, Siebert, South High School, South Mifflin STEM, Stewart Alternative, Trevitt, Valley Forge, Valley View, Walnut Ridge High School, Watkins, Westgate, Windsor STEM, Winterset, Woodcrest, and Woodward Park Middle School. Those are a lot of schools that closed those gaps. Congratulations on that B. The next improvement was shown as an academic indicator. We earned 1 out of 26 indicators. It was the indicator of the end of course retake improvement. We needed to get a 25%, and we got exactly that. The next component is the component of graduation rate. It is not only important to our students, but this component is especially to our community at large as well. The 4-year graduation rate contributes 60%, and the 5-year graduation rate contributes 40% to the total component grade. Our 4-year rate was previously an F, but has risen to a D. Our overall component grade remained a D both last year and this year. These rates we know are unacceptable for our students in our community, and we're changing that. Graduation rates are always 1 year in the rears. As you can see on the bar graph in front of you, our district's 4-year graduation rate is above that of other districts labeled similar districts, which include other urbans in Ohio. However, it is below the state average in both the 4- and 5-year graduation rates. Special emphasis was placed on this component over the last year. We will see a surge in this component during our next report card cycle, but we must continue our diligence as the legislators continue to change our graduation pathways. We must do everything in our power to change this trajectory and give the light of hope to all of our students. Fast forward, this is the really good news. To our data, our preliminary data for the fall of 2020. I know you're sitting there looking at me like, wait a minute, the report card just came out. How can you be predicting this? Well, remember, graduation is always 1 year in the rears. So I can already tell you what our 4-year and our 5-year rates are. And I can already tell you that based on this preliminary data, We will continue to have a D on our report card for our four-year graduation rate, but we will move to a C on our report card for the five-year graduation rate for the fall of 2020. Although our component grade for graduation for next year's report card will remain the D, we need to give a huge shout out to the following schools who improved their four-year graduation rates from 17 to 18. Briggs, West, Independence, East, Marion Franklin, South, Centennial, Columbus North International, Beechcroft, Mifflin, Northland, Fort Hays Arts and Academic, and Linden McKinley STEM. Our five-year graduation rate improvements from 17-18 shout-outs go to West High School, Walnut Ridge, Marion Franklin, Centennial, Whetstone, Columbus Afrocentric Early College, Columbus Alternative, and Linden McKinley STEM. Our next slide shares with you the possible number of graduates for the 2020 cohort by school and by region. You may ask why this is really important. Remember, you're going to hear in just a little bit about how we've taken our district and regionalized it. This is going to be especially important to those area superintendents in watching their graduation numbers. The next four slides we will share with you are our ACT, our SAT, our AP, and IB data. The breakdown details by building are in your Board of Education data folder. Remember that the state pays for one ACT or SAT test for each junior in the state of Ohio. Our ACT composite score on the ACT for the 18-19 school year was 15.7. The remediation-free score was achieved by 176 students in our district, or 7%. A remediation-free score are subscores in English, language arts, and math, which denote the minimum scores needed to not need remedial coursework in college. The remediation score on the ACT or SAT are minimum scores set that a student must achieve. They're in the ACT, English 18, reading 22, and mathematics of 22. You'll hear later in our presentation the strategies that our academic team has come up with and planned for to increase these scores and how they will use this data to prepare our students for the future. Next, you have the SAT scores over the last 3 years. Please keep in mind that this data set is somewhat limited. Because this is a self-pay test, very few students have taken it. The SAT remediation-free scores are 430 for writing, 450 for reading, and 520 for mathematics. Our advanced placement test results currently show us with a 24.57% passage rate with a score of 3 or higher. And I'm sure all of you know that a 3, 4, or 5 is what is needed to get credit. Our number of AP courses taken by our students is at a record high of 1,421. Here are our International Baccalaureate, or IB, scores for the last 3 years. The number of IB courses taken has reached 792 courses for an all-time high in Columbus City Schools. And again, this data is available in your Board of Education folder. Another really important data set in school success is school attendance. Students who are absent from school miss important learning opportunities, which can be difficult or even impossible to make up. Students who miss 10% or 18 days or more of a school year are considered by the Ohio Department of Education to be chronically absent. Chronic absence, especially in the early grades, can signal future high-risk patterns, such as students not being on track to reading proficiently by the end of 3rd grade, students failing courses in middle school, and not graduating from high school. 16.7% of students in Ohio were chronically absent in the school year 2018-19. Let me repeat that number, 16.7% in Ohio. Our current chronic absenteeism rate for 18-19 is 45.73%. You have a breakdown of building and region data in your Board of Education data folder for your review. So what are we going to do? In October, a team, including representatives from our city government, are going to travel to Cleveland Metropolitan School District in order to learn from their successful implementation of an attendance campaign. We will plan our own campaign and rally with truancy officers to help our students and community. In Cleveland, the chronic absenteeism rate was at 52.6%, so higher than ours, in their baseline year of 2014-15. 4 years later, during 18-19 school year, their chronic absenteeism has reduced to 41.4%, or an 11.2% reduction in chronic absenteeism. We know that students must attend school to receive instruction and support on a daily basis. Every absence hurts, as every day counts. Our improvement plan has accelerated. Now here's Dr. Angela Chapman, our Chief of Transformation and Leadership, to elaborate on our network supports for improvement in our schools.
Good evening. As part of our academic restructuring, we have now organized all of our schools into 6 regional networks spanning grades pre-K through grade 12. As a next step, we also recognize the need to realign key central office supports and resources around the new regional structure. Each region will now have designated staff supports in key areas. Area superintendents will lead regional network support teams. You can see here in this diagram that the area superintendents and the principals sit at the nexus between central office and schools. The area superintendents will be empowered to guide and direct support to schools in ways that meaningfully address concerns and amplify their strengths. These supports include, but are not limited to, job-embedded coaching, professional development, planning, modeling, and technical assistance. CCS has many school supports beyond those in the network, including early childhood and gifted coordinators, safety and security specialists, and area treasurers that will work directly with schools aligned to each region. We are also working to identify additional resources for truancy officers to support our attendance work that Dr. Klein has just highlighted. Again, our ability to deploy supports and resources from all offices to our schools in real time allows us as an organization to be more nimble and responsive to school-specific needs. The network support staff will convene regularly to discuss supports and problem solve during monthly roundtable meetings. These meetings will also serve as an opportunity to collaborate and share strategies and information across multiple central office teams, norm on common expectations, respond to the needs of schools in real time, and check in on our progress towards meeting our goals. These monthly roundtable meetings will also provide us with regular cadence to progress monitor our school improvement work that is grounded in the Ohio Improvement Process. Anchoring the network supports to the school's improvement plan will ensure that all of our efforts are focused and aligned to our key strategies that will drive and accelerate improvement in our district. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Tracy Ocasio, our Chief Academic Officer.
All right, good evening. And so one of the things that I want to talk about, you heard some pieces in our data, and data is neither positive or negative. It's really descriptive. When it becomes negative is if we don't do anything about things that need improving. And so in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, I'd like to call this part Adelante, which actually means onward, moving forward, but not just moving forward swiftly, because our students have that opportunity, or should have that opportunity. They only get to be 5 one time. They only get to be 15 one time. We have to make the best of this time. And so what you're going to see is that we've considered some strategies, and basically they fall into 3 buckets of work. One is about considering how we can fortify or how we can invest in our human capital. So the strategies that you'll see will be solutions around human capital. The other strategies that you will see will fall into a bucket of looking at adopting and aligning appropriate resources. And so in some cases, it is about buying something new or giving a new resource or a tool. In another area, we also need to consider structural changes. There may be things in our day, there may be things in the way that we've done business. And so each of these categories, these 3 buckets, you're going to see all of these strategies will fit there. And so one of the first ones that we're going to talk about is we want to revitalize our curriculum adoption cycle. It's something that most districts that perform at benchmark, most districts that are viable do, and they do it regularly. Because the purpose of the work in my office, and actually the purpose of school, is that we offer a guaranteed and viable curriculum. Guaranteed means that if I have twins that go to 2 locations, one in each different spot, each different school, they're going to get the same strong opportunities to be proficient and also to have post-secondary success. It wouldn't matter what school. The other part of that is viable. That means that we are giving students the opportunity to master Ohio State standards, and that we do it in a way that offers efficiency so that these are the floor, they're not the ceiling. What they need to accomplish is that on each grade level is at the floor. And so that we have ways of making sure that all students across the district get that. And so one of the things that you're going to see is we're participating first in that curriculum audit so that we can look at our ELA curriculum and our math and consider a new adoption process. We also are looking at that curriculum audit that you're going to see in the next board agenda. We're working with Phi Delta Kappa to see what sources we have, what are we lacking, where are there holes, and looking to remediate and fill in those gaps. We also want to make sure that those resources give us the opportunity to offer a viable curriculum. We teach what we need to teach as the major focus of that grade level, and that varies as kids grow older. And so for example, at the elementary math level, we're giving them all the foundational skills. When they get to middle school, they become composite skills, and then they become very focused at the high school. So you're going to see that we're going to move back towards more traditional coursework where you'll see an algebra course, you'll see a geometry course, and similar. And so one of the other pieces that you're going to see is that we're going to take a focus in on behavioral supports. We know that students are not just academics, and the Ohio State standards allude to not only academic, but cognitive skills. Those are the social skills, the things they need at the job, the things that make them successful, that develop resiliency and grit. And so you'll see that we're going to put in some effort into how do we support students academically, but how do we also support them socially and emotionally. And so the other piece that you're going to see is that we're going to have an intense focus on increasing graduation rates. We do have some positives in our data. However, we want to make sure that we're not only increasing graduation rates because graduating is not the finish line. Being prepared for the future is the finish line. Making sure our kids are successful when they do achieve the opportunity to go to college, when they do get that job that they want, when they have that industry credential. Those are the focus areas that we're looking to move forward in. And so some of the things that you're going to see in terms of those supports is we want to make sure we align those supports. We have some great programs. We have graduation coaches. We have mentoring programs. We have I Know I Can. We have the opportunity to have career centers and resources with adult education. And so we want to make sure that all of those things are aligned, that we are intervening early, and that we're remediating any gap skills, and that we're pushing kids towards the finish line. We want to see our students be entered into high school with some opportunity for success. We're looking at pushing fine arts, physical education, as well as a technology credit down into the 8th grade, because then students start off ahead of the game. And it's an opportunity to free up their schedule for those vocational programs, those career and technical opportunities that require more extended time. So we're looking at that structural change in order to get our kids better prepared. And so what you'll notice is that in alignment to this, you're going to see that we're going to increase the opportunities in terms of their focused pathways. And so one of the things that the state of Ohio has done is they look at career strands. And we're looking at ways to get kids to identify earlier on what are the opportunities that are available to me post-secondary, and then how do we align coursework that if I want to be a particular focus area career, for example, engineering, I know I need to get certain math sequences in place to be successful at college because I'm going to need that when I want to get into that field. I also know that if I want to do something different like performing arts, because I know that's my area of giftedness, I need something different in order to get there. So we're going to align our career strands and our high school course sequences appropriately, and also begin some of that in the middle school level. So one of the things that you'll see is that the state of Ohio has offered 3 local graduation seals, and you're going to see that coming up in a future board meeting because that needs to be approved. And so those 3 seals, we've worked on how do we get students the opportunity to meet graduation requirements. And one of the requirements there is to offer them these 3 seals, and there's one in community services, there's one in fine and performing arts, there's also one in student engagement, and they're locally defined. They're in addition to other opportunities for students, and you're going to see some of that coming before you, and that's where this is coming from. It's an opportunity for students to meet graduation requirements that have changed somewhat through legislation. And so another piece that you're going to see is we have made an intentional effort to focus in on that goal with ELA and math performance. And so you're going to see that we are offering up not just a multi-tiered system of support and making that robust to help support the academic work in ELA and math, but we're also going to look at it from the behavioral side. So what's the core program that everyone gets? What is then the supplemental instruction for students that are having difficulty meeting the objectives at their grade level? And then what's the intense tiered work? Because we know that we have some students that have much larger gap skills. So if I'm teaching something on ratios and proportional relationships at 6th grade, I need to look at, could they do long division? I need to help them understand fractions better, but I can't reteach everything that they missed at prior grade levels. So we're working with teachers on understanding what is required by the standard and what's an exemplar that says the student's on track. We're also looking again at adopting better resources that are more aligned to the current standards. We're looking at adopting instructional strategies and assuring that teachers have the instructional strategies that have been found to be best practice in research. We are considering our professional development in looking at supporting our teachers, developing their expertise based on that. And part of the outcomes that and the deliverables that we will have is a 3-year professional development plan that's very focused. And it will also include for specialized instruction. So we know that we have autistic programs for nonverbal students, and their focused professional development should look accordingly and give teachers the equipment and the tools and the strategies, the best practice that would help deliver a good program, a strong program that meets student needs. That looks differently, though, than a teacher that supports learning support students and helping them develop standards-aligned IEP goals. So we want to make sure that these professional development plans are very targeted for the audience and also support teachers in developing the strong expertise that we've hired them in having. So we want to make sure we continue to develop our people. And so also, we mentioned about the increasing industry credentials. One of the things that we've been successful in doing, and you'll see this in our CTE report cards, students are getting industry credentials. We're working on aligning all of our programs. We're working on also a college success strategies course at the middle school level, because as soon as a student takes that and gets credit for it, we then not give kids articulated credit, we give them transcribed credit in their future CTE programs. So it gives students an opportunity to be further ahead than their on-level peers. And so as kids are graduating, they're getting these credits that are not articulated, but they're transcribed on their actual transcripts. And so by looking at our structural changes, pushing that downward into middle school, we have a better chance to set our children up for success. And the other part, it says extra opportunities for testing. I want to explain that a little bit better than what it is here. It's not about more testing. We want very targeted assessment plans so that, and Donald Graves said it best, testing is not teaching. We want to make sure that we're measuring what's important at the grade level, but that we're not wasting teachers' time, not wasting students' time with extra assessment. We're working on things such as formative assessment, but also here, when students have the opportunity to test earlier. So for example, on an SAT or an ACT, they can actually score better by getting that experience earlier. They get a sense of what the test is like, and just by taking that test, it gives them extra points. I think there's an average of 3 more points based on that experience. So we're looking at opportunities to infuse some of this earlier, and then also being able to plan responsively. We're also looking at other opportunities where we can expand our credentialed programs to give equity across the system, so that in each region we have a STEM type program. In each region we may have some other type of program, whether it's construction, so that students have the chance of getting that experience, because I know that's what I want to do after graduation, then I have the chance to actually receive that opportunity. And so we're looking at equity of those programs, making sure that every high school offers the same core curriculum. And so you're going to see that on this next piece. When it says supporting graduation, we're putting in that Work Keys curriculum to get a better opportunity for preparation. We're also looking at making sure that every high school has the same course guide so that every high school teaches the same core courses. And then in supplement to that guide, we focus in on the career strands that are available at that high school. The other piece that we're looking at is differentiating those course sequences by the career focus area. So if I know I'm going to be a certain career because I've said this is what I want to be when I leave, I get those prerequisites so that I'm able to go into post-secondary without remediation, because those courses, when we take them at the college level, they don't count. And so it's important that we make sure that our kids are prepared. The other piece of this is that we also want to push down some of those those college level courses into our high schools in ways that offer more opportunity to take those. So some of our limitations in offering an AP course is that we don't have enough students, but we want to look at technology about doing that across campuses. And so taking advantage of these experiences. The same with some of our college courses, taking it across campuses so that we have monitors in one location and a rotating teacher who then goes in and teaches from that location but projects out. We also want to consider the increases in opportunities for AP and honors. So looking at how we're tailoring our service delivery models. And so you'll see on this next piece, we're talking about differentiated service delivery for gifted and talented. So what does that look like? What's the range of opportunities for those students? The same with our English language learners. What's the range of opportunities? How can we increase opportunities for dual immersion programs, which we know have success? And they also lead to the seal of biliteracy that's available through the state. We also want to make sure that we have systematic phonics in place. Students need letter sound connections. They need strong letter sound connections so that when it's not just a single letter, it's a group of letters. Think about how you read a word. If I gave you the word operation, you don't sound out each of those words. You learned that by looking at patterns in words. And you've done that because you had good phonics instruction at some point, and that created a good reader out of you. And so we want to find ways that we can create better readers by starting off early, making sure students have foundational skills so that when it's time to really focus deeply on the comprehension of information, it's available to them. The other piece is we're doing a pathways model. So we want to make sure that we're aligning our sequences and that we're giving more opportunities. So what about students that disengage? We know that we have populations. You've heard that we have chronic attendance issues. And so one of the things that we want to look at is how do we create patterns for re-engagement? How do we give accelerated high school to students that are undercredited, overaged? And so looking at beefing what we currently have, if beefing is even a real word, look at fortifying what we currently have, but then also increasing that with differentiated opportunities. Because let's be honest, sometimes traditional high school doesn't work for everyone. And so we're looking at ways to incorporate other types of programming. And then the same with enhanced middle school programming. We need to start honors early. We need to make sure that we're enhancing and enriching. We also need to make sure that we're catching students that kind of lose interest in the middle school level, because we know that sometimes in research we see 5th and 6th grade, particularly males, and definitely by ethnicity, they lose interest. And we need to make sure that we're putting in strategies and opportunities for interventions early, and addressing, of course, those gap skills early. So one of the things I will say to you, and I want to remind you, we're looking at investing in our human capital. All of our strategies are related to either that, to investing in our materials, adopting and aligning great materials, but then also in looking at the structural changes, because our students shouldn't have to fit into our structures. We need to make sure that we alter ourselves for them. And so I know that you saw some things that are positive in the data. I know that you saw some things that aren't as positive. We have great foundations, but we need to do a little bit more. And so my favorite quote, of course, is a Robert Kennedy quote that says, "Some men look at things that are and they ask why. I dream of things that are not, and I ask why not." And so one of the things that you're going to see is that we are going to be aspirational, and we're going to look to bring teachers, look to bring administrators together and talk about how can we make this better for students and make sure that we're not only meeting the regulations, but that we're actually helping students achieve. So I'm excited to be with you, and I've tempered my enthusiasm because I'm a morning person, so you're lucky it's after 6. I start to fade interest. So, thank you. Yes.
Without any room for breath.
Well, that's me. I talk very fast.
Yeah. So, Board President Baker, this ends my superintendent's report. And if you have any questions from me or the team, feel free to answer any of those questions.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Questions, comments, colleagues? Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much, Madam Superintendent, for this presentation. I just have a quick one question. I imagine it's two-part. The first is timeline. Now, I had the opportunity to see at one of the closing slides that 2021 is kind of what we're shooting for. But ultimately, when you're talking about full implementation of this, what does your timeline look like? And more importantly, what is the frequency of reporting on this that you're going to do with us?
The first question is, remember that we have some curriculum audits that are happening. So that's important. That curriculum audit starts this month, and we hope to have that data reported back, the results from that audit in January. So that's one piece. And we've continued to evaluate, and we got to get some programs in place. So part of it is, a lot of this we hope to have shifted starting next year. But some of these things we've already kind of put in place and focusing on right now. The strategies for graduation, the strategies for ELA, and the strategies for math, remember, those are the priorities. Those are the three things that we're focusing on now. So those strategies are in place. Professional development, we're aligning those pieces together. So it's nothing that's going to happen overnight, but we're working to make sure some of these things are implemented this year. The supports that Dr. Chapman is talking about, we are aligning those supports. We're talking about that now. We have a strategy support meeting next week to make sure that we're aligning the supports. The truant officers, we've already allocated dollars to hire additional 2 people. We've already identified what regions that we need additional support. And we've partnered with the county to make sure that we have those truant officers available. So a lot of this is happening, is ongoing, continued dialogue. But a lot of it's happening now, but full implementation of all of these things are going to be happening over time.
And specifically, I didn't get a chance to ask the question when our teachers were here. But with this ELA piece and the cut score being at 212, it seemed as if this mandate, and I'm trying to compartmentalize it mentally, but it seemed as if this mandate was a couple things. One, proactive. Is that correct? Was it our attempt at being proactive from the standpoint of making sure on an earlier basis we are much more engaged and students are much more prepared in advance in an earlier grade? So was this proactive in nature?
It was our attempt to provide earlier safety nets for our students and to provide those supports. So yes, that was our initial intent of changing that cut score, increasing that cut score. It was our intent to provide safety nets earlier, so we increased the cut score.
2, was this big, hairy, audacious goal with the 212 number, that this is us ideally setting the bar for ourselves? Just like you asked, I wanted clarity on the idea of whether this is really us setting a high bar for ourselves and this should be our standard.
So what I asked Dr. Klein to do, and I think I have her come back up, I asked her to look at our data last year. And I said, based on our data last year, what's the median score? You know, where did our kids fall? And if we can set that as our baseline. And so that's the exercise that she and her team did, and that's how we got to the score of 212.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Board President Baker, to Board Member Vice President Cole's question. One of the things that was just outstanding for us to look at, and we actually shared this information with our union partnership, was that if we could prove giving additional interventions for specific students and that student group would actually raise their score and would allow them to move from a promotion rate to a proficiency rate, don't we owe it to our students? And so we are after that proficiency rate and not a promotion rate.
Last question then, does this process by which you've created, this mandate by which you created, doesn't it create a process where students will eventually walk themselves out of REMP status over what length of time?
They are required, once they're put on a REMP, to stay on a REMP for that school year, but not the following. But the neat thing about this is that it allows the parent to be engaged with the partnership of the teacher in fulfilling those strategies. So example, if you're a parent and you come in to a REMP conference or a parent-teacher conference, you sit down and talk strategies of reading with your teacher. So that I know when I'm a parent and I go into a grocery store, I should be asking my student to do certain things so that I can actually use text-to-self and text-to-world connections with my child. This can just open the world to them, and not only does it change their ELA or English Language Arts score, it actually raises all other content academics.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Fine. Mr. Ragland?
Thank you, Dr. Dixon, for a very thorough report. My one question is, what can we as a Board of Education do to help you achieve these goals?
Thank you. Thank you. I think you've already started. You said to me you have do a one-year plan, and what are those things you're going to do, and report to us about how well you're implementing that. And this is a first step. Making sure that those things that we say are a priority, those are the priorities. And I think as they outlined, it shows that those 4 things that we said that we were going to prioritize. We said, 1, how we align the regional supports, and how we're going to increase our academics in reading, mathematics, and graduation. And our second strategy, we talked about student supports and safety for our students. So I think we're demonstrating that we're working to that end. Strategy 3, talent development. We talk about how we're going to create an organization where everyone is learning, and how we're going to align that 3-year professional development plan. And then 4, our engagement strategy. And so you're going to hear more from those areas at future board members. But you have, I thank you for supporting me as we move forward in these 4 areas. But also remember that we've partnered with Battelle for Kids, and we're going to have the visioning exercise that's going to begin later this month. And from that exercise, we're asking the community and our community stakeholders, what do they want to see in our schools? What should a Columbus City graduate look like? So this whole portrait of a graduate visioning exercise is critical to us developing the long-term strategic plan, right? So I said, keep talking to the community about this visioning exercise. Let's get as many stakeholders, when we get ready to announce when and where, get as many stakeholders to the table in all corners of our community to help develop what those long-term strategies will be, so that we can get to that end goal. This is what we want for our students. This is why we want these experiences for our students. And as a board, how are you going to monitor that this is what we're going to do?
Very good. Thank you. Board Member Gibbs.
Yes, thank you so much. I have a few questions for you. Thank you for the presentation and coming out with the data. So I just want to walk through a couple of the slides. We went through them very quickly, and I just want to make sure I understand, and for the listening and viewing public, they understand when we talk about the data, the terms, the acronyms, and what this data actually means. So the first one, when we say we're talking about a year in arrears, this is the data that is 2017, 2018, or 2018, 2019 on this report card.
2018.
2018, 2019.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Graduation is always a year behind.
And this graduation's already a year behind. So kudos to the team that pulled us out of a F. So I will say that. I'm very happy we did not start this year with an F. And as we say, don't celebrate the D, I celebrate not looking at one person on the Academic Distress Commission. I don't miss it at all, and I'm very happy that that is not what we're going to do. So my first question is a policy question, and it's around the graduation rate. I have the state report card. I have the ODE up on my site, and it's called preparation. This is called Prepare for Success. Is the department or the part of the report card. And we get graded on our ACT preparation and our SAT. How many kids take the ACT and SAT? We pay for our kids to take the ACT, so we have like a 65%, like it's a really high rate. But we don't pay for them to take the SAT, but we get scored on it. Is that, do we get rated for both of them? Because our SAT score is 4.1, our ACT is 65.4. Is the low rate held against us? I guess is my question.
Is the low rate of the SAT?
Yes, is that held against us in our component score?
No.
To Board Member Gibbs's question, no, ma'am, it is not. Each student is required at that grade level, the junior level, to take one.
Okay, thank you. That really helped me.
We decide which one we're going to pay for, and we pay for the ACT.
It's ACT or SAT, not both. Thank you, because when you list it all, it looks like they needed to take them both, but we only need to take one. And it's the remediation-free score on it. So to that also point, for graduation, we talk about the number of bonus students that actually meet that 3 or higher on AP scores. What is our strategy to get more of them to pass that AP test? What are we going to do to get more kids to pass that test?
Okay.
To get 3 or higher, to get 3 or higher, which is the mark.
I just put something in my mouth, so I apologize. My throat was dry. So one of the things that we're looking at is preparation opportunities, but also enrichment, and enrichment starting young. And so we consider many times MTSS, the multi-tiered system of support, as an intervention-based system. It's not. It's really about enrichment as well. And so we're working with our Director for Gifted and Talented on looking at what are the enrichment opportunities, and one of her deliverables is increasing that participation rate, but also successful participation. And so we're looking at what are the preparation opportunities that we have. We know that there are resources available for that. We're looking to make sure that our teachers are able to incorporate those, that they avail themselves to them, and that we give them professional development from the places that provide these resources so that they can use them well.
Thank you for that. But just a question about that, and then about our strategies and supports. I know in our buildings that provide AP and IB, which is one, but they engage and they use their resources. But in other buildings, I've walked in, and while we hear the advocacy for resources, I see dust on smart boards and dust on some other equipment that, according to advocacy, they say they need. How are you going to ensure they use the resources? Like, how do we monitor whether or not they use the resources, the tangible things that we buy? When we send you to professional development, we trust that you're thinking about it and you'll implement that in your thought, in your teaching or your work. Guidance counselors, social workers, everybody. This is everybody. How do we ensure and how do we monitor whether or not they're using those resources we invest in their profession?
Question. So one of the things that we're going to do, and Dr. Chapman can speak to this as well, we're working on a protocol for building visits, and we've invited our union reps to talk with us about that. And so what we'll be looking for is what are teachers actually doing in classrooms, what kinds of supports do we need to give to them, what's available to them, is there equity in terms of those resources, are they located in some buildings, not others, because the technology plan, we have lots of technology, but we don't always have updated or equitable distribution of the technology. So we are going to look at those things. I know we had a great conversation beginning of the year. We spent almost, it was like $750,000 on a program, and people were choosing to use it or not use it. Things that cost that kind of money, we owe it to the students and to the people that pay the taxes to make sure that we're buying resources that are used. And so one of the things that we are doing is having that conversation that this is a resource that's a district resource provided and that it's part of a plan. As we look through this curriculum audit, that's going to help as well. We want to make sure that based on that MTSS system, that framework, that there's a good core program in every building, not just for academics, but behavior as well. And so we're embedding SEL, the social and emotional learning competencies, into our our ELA curriculum. So our reading curriculum, they'll have a portion of that. For example, at the 10th grade level, I could read George Orwell's Shooting of the Elephant. I can really do standard 2 and 3, where I talk about how he's feeling, the inner conflict, how it relates to his actions, and how that contributes to the central idea. But I can also then talk about self-awareness. So we're working on ways that it will naturally fit, because we're seeing that we're providing training, but we're not always seeing the return on the investment. And part of what we're going to do, Dr. Chapman and I and our teams, we're going to visit classrooms, really not for anything other than to inform us what's missing, what's needed, how do we support, and who's using what we need to have them use as well. It's all non-evaluative. It's really feedback to help us with our work. It's actually more about what we're doing than what's happening in classrooms, and making sure that we're supporting and giving the right messages. And across a district of 50,000 students, we need the same message, and that's part of what we're working towards.
Thank you so much for that answer. On the chronic absenteeism slide, I thought I heard you quote that 45.3% of our students are chronically absent. How many is that? What does that number equate to? Because people hear percentages, but if you don't have a concept of it, you can bring that back to me.
Give that back to you.
And I want to know, like, how many kids how many bodies does that equate to that are out of school? On the network rounds, and it said we'll convene and support staff, how is that different from instructional rounds? And who gets that data that you gather from that? Does that come to the administrative, and how do we see it? Or how is it used, I guess?
I think my mic, okay, there we go. The roundtable meetings is the name of the structure that we are using for central office teams to meet and come together and align on our practices. It is not in any way, shape, or form related to instructional rounds.
Okay.
Instructional rounds is a protocol used to examine instruction. I think it started at Harvard University. All of our teachers would be trained on that. That would be a process that we would engage teachers and administration in to give feedback on instructional practices in the classroom. So this is simply the name that we're using to call the meetings that we'll have to talk about our strategies and our support across multiple offices.
Okay, thank you for that. I have several more questions, but I will yield the floor to my colleagues if they want to jump in, and I'll resume my questions.
Thank you. Board Member Adair.
Thank you so much. I heard a lot of things that I really love about this. So congratulations to you and the team. This makes me excited to sit here and move forward. And I hope that our families and everyone listening, they become excited as well. And I guess that's kind of my question. So we heard about a lot of, what are we doing? What are we structurally doing? How are we communicating this? Like, what is the communication strategy around this? Because I do strategic planning, that's what I do, and I know that you have this great idea, but if it doesn't get communicated down properly, people don't buy in, and then it is difficult to actually implement and measure. And so I had questions about the measurement as well, but I'll leave that because Board Member Cole already addressed it. So mine was around the culture and climate as well as communication, and I did hear a lot of keywords I loved. One I did not hear was rigor. Is the concept of rigor something that we are trying to implement? And that kind of comes back to what Board Member Ragland was saying when we were having that discussion about the reading.
And yes, it's implied that what we're doing, rigor is implied. And if we need to be more direct, we will be, but when we're talking about higher standards, we're talking about more rigor. When we talked about increasing the opportunities for AP and honors classes, we're talking about more rigor. When we're talking about making sure that we are increasing our scores in our SAT and SAT scores, that's rigor. So yes, we need to be more explicit, but it is implied that we have high standards for our students. We're setting up the curriculum that we are learning, have more opportunities earlier. That's rigor. We are making sure that our students, when it's If they can take a tougher class, more rigorous class early, let's get them in those classrooms and allow them to do that. So, pardon me, but it's implied that what we're doing, we're providing a rigorous opportunities for our students, K-12 across the district. But also to communications piece, I just want to remind us why Alicia Gillison's position was formed. And that was that engagement strategy, right? We wanted to be intentional about not only aligning our programs, but having a strategy of how we engage our parents and stakeholders, having meaningful conversations about what they believe were best for their kids. And that is the work that she's a champion of that work, and we're working on that strategy with some consultants to make sure that we have the right approach. Same as Scott and his team. He's expanded his team by another new member who's here today, Ryan. That communication strategy. So remember, we have strategies to this work that we're working on, and we want to make sure they're the right strategies to approach this work. Even to the point where the family said today, we have to make sure we have all our literature in multiple languages. We make sure that all of those pieces, as we are learning, that we're implementing and making sure that are part of the larger strategy. So that strategic plan work that we're going to do in the spring will come immediately after the visioning work. So we are still learning and getting data. We're going to hear from all of our stakeholders across the organization. And then when we get ready to put that plan into action and craft that plan, we will know that these are the right programs, the right strategies as we build that portrait of a graduate. And then we also have the right monitoring tools, right? So we come back to the board and say, this is how we're monitoring how well we're doing on these things. But remember, that's a long-term plan. So there's two pieces to this. So it's the learning piece that we're still approaching some things while we're still working on the bigger pieces. And that is that work on the increasing graduation of the ELA and mathematics while we're still doing these other things. So it's kind of twofold. I hope that makes sense. But you're right. We want to make sure that we're communicating this well. So we now know, even with the REMP conversation, how do we get that as a learning tool out to our parents? Now you will receive your REMP in the mail. Hi, parents, please go online and press whatever, and you can hear a message. That's important, and hear it in multiple language. We know that we have to do that now, but long term, what else? What are the other strategies we need to implement? We know that we have the Chief of Equity position that's still posted. That's going to be important to this work as well, making sure that we have equitable resources across the district, equitable programs across the district, and messaging. So it's all seems like it's a lot happening at once, but we are very purposeful and strategic in aligning this work. There's a lot to do with those area superintendents. I mean, they are out. They're the champions in these regions for this work as well. Our food service, our technology team, there's a lot that's happening as we are moving this work forward. And we will continue to come back, continue to dialogue about it every month, continue to answer questions that you have, so that when the final plan is done, we would have crossed all T's and dotted all I's. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you for that. And I guess, you answered a question I didn't actually anticipate I asked,
Yeah.
but I appreciate the response. My question about communication was actually more directed internally to our internal staff.
Okay.
And how is there a plan, or will there be a plan strategically to move information down to people that will implement it on the ground, and then also a way for them to engage up, so we continue to explore data and measurement with them?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Yes. And that's good, and thank you for that distinction. But right, because internally, some of this stuff won't move forward if we're not talking and we don't use in the same language internally. But that's why I was purposeful in dividing the strategy, right? So this is how we communicate, but this is how we engage.
Right. Right.
So we're engaging our stakeholders, but we're communicating internally with our staff and externally of how we're moving and celebrating these pieces. So thank you.
Thank you.
Back to you, Board Member Gibbs.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Board Member Adair, because those were some of the things I had written. I'd written rigor at the top of the corner of the page and making sure not just the rigor in AP and IB, but where is the rigor for special ed students? Where is the rigor to make sure we're not just pushing them to where we think they can go, but pushing them as far as they can go? And that how will we be able to, what will the evidence be? And we can get to that later, but how will you demonstrate evidence and be able to report that we have increased rigor for special ed students and for students that are not in IB? I want to make sure we can say we increased rigor in 10th grade social studies that everybody takes, and not just the elite programs and College Career Plus, but that rigor throughout every program. And I know we have our 3 mandates, but I'll also throw in how are we going to move the middle? Because middle school, 9th grade only gets what they get from 8th grade. And what they're only getting from where they test from 3rd grade reading guarantee to where we start talking about graduation in grade 9. And so I'm glad to hear that there's some strategies, but we know if we're going to move everybody, we can't vacate grades 4 through 8, and that work has to be done. But to my question, what do we do, and I'm on this next page where we're talking about increasing graduation rates, how will we look at those career center pieces, and are our career offerings a part of your audit? How will we know what programs we need to expand and what we need to eliminate? I did talk to Pegeen Cleary earlier, so I know she has this great plan, but I want to make sure that we publicly talk about matching that demand to the offerings. And we studied the Nashville Academies and some amazing work, but that is at a thought of rigor even in our career technical programs. Are we asking can you get hired at Google coming out of Columbus City Schools? Can you get hired at the NSA or the Department of Defense based on what we have offering in our program? So I will offer, as you're looking at audit, just to let us know when you come around to the career center part. The next part about these graduation seals, I love these. I think these are amazing. To your point about communication, I want them to be in there, but again, you're gonna hear me say the same thing about 2 or 3 different people. How do special ed students access this, and how is this opportunity real for them, as well as our students from different backgrounds? It's straightforward, but as we talk about making sure we partner with agencies that can provide these volunteer experiences, that we partner with people that can accommodate all of our students and all of them, and they have a meaningful experience. As we talk about, I'm on the page where we're talking about support for English and math and development of standards in the 3-year professional development plan. How will we, or how do you plan to support the professional development plan with teacher mobility? So when you do the PD, do you do it based on the building that they're in or the skills that they need no matter where they end up in the district? Because I see where students could be in a building that quote unquote has a high grade and you've been there the whole time, and so your PD is based on that school, and you might go to a different school, and will their PD be transferable? So I will offer that as a thought, and if you could just come back with that question, how do we make the professional development one part building specific, but one part portable? So, and same with administrators, because our administrator mobility is it can get pretty high. How do I train you not for where you are, but for anywhere that you're going to go? Because I don't want you to be even in a building where you're doing, your whole class is on RIMPs, and then you are finally placed in a classroom where nobody's on a RIMP. You know, how do you navigate that? And so that would be some information I would want you to bring back just in your plan to share with us how you would do it. How will a high-performing kid succeed in a low-performing building, or in a building where everyone may not be at the top of their scores in math or reading, but you have but a student that is at the top. How are we supporting those students that aren't failing, but in a class or maybe in a building where everyone or a majority of the kids may not be up to speed? That would be something, when you bring us back the plan in more detail, I would want to see that. And because we have great strategies on helping our lowest performing students. But when you are about 5 points ahead of that cut score, you haven't made it. Like, you're not super solid, you're just at 214, right? So you just missed getting roped in, but you just have 214. So what's that 214 plan, and what is that 355 plan, right? How are we making sure the kids on the bubble or in the middle are still moved because they are not triggering emergency intervention? Because I think we have great potential right there in the middle, but you're not at a cut score to get any additional resources, because that 214 student can easily slide, under our cut score for fourth grade and slide back and forth. So understanding, and I think this plan is amazing, so I'm just asking questions that the next board will have to think about and the evidence to show, but I think it will help them understand, and parents can see themselves in all parts of the plan. Because if I don't have a student that's failing, I want to make sure I see a plan for my child as well. And they may not be gifted. They might not be on the high end or the low end, but when we say move the middle, we're not just talking about middle school. How are we moving that middle to reach their full potential? And almost finally, I would want to see how many career tech programs or some of these work key programs, how can we access this in the summer? Do we offer career center programs in the summer or in the evening? I know we got away from night school for whatever reason, and we say a lot of kids work, a lot of kids are at home playing Fortnite. A lot of kids can use this time, and you might work during the day and go to school at night. And we had that options for parents at one time. So when you come back and as you're developing the plan, if you could tell us, not just for regular academic, but for career tech or for any of our courses, how else can we deliver it? We thought VCAP was that answer, but we haven't been able to utilize VCAP to its fullest of advancement. And some kids need to be in front of people. They need, there's no replacement for good teachers, no replacement for talking and being there, but understanding different pathway timing and what that looks like. And should we go to a semester? Maybe a kid doesn't come to school fall semester. Maybe they come winter semester. Thinking about things differently. When you go to college, you enroll in the fall or you start in the spring. And they have those options. And so after hearing, because Cleveland presented that truancy plan at Council of Great City Schools in Baltimore, so I know exactly where you're going, and it was wildly successful. It was amazing. My final question is this, because I think it's an amazing plan, but we also know culture eats strategy for breakfast. And as witnessed today, how do y'all plan to overcome the resistors? What is our plan? How will we know if they're resisting? And what is our plan to address this? Because I'm all for raising the bar and moving forward. Being more than proficient, I want to be advanced. I want to be a world-class model for public education, and you don't get there by staying at the bottom. So what is your plan to resist for the resistors, and how do you overcome, how do you win with people to move this forward?
Well, I think we've already started, and that we have a plan. And this plan is our focus, and we all have a common language, and we're moving forward. I mean, we talked about, if you notice, the title of this presentation is Accelerating Our Improvement. It's what we're doing, period. And so I think I've tried to, and I hope people understand what my non-negotiables are. I think I've been very clear about that with our team. I think the changes that we've made since I've been here in 7 months demonstrate that we're serious about this work. This work is too important not to be serious about it. We're going to have ongoing intellectual discord. That's part of the process. And I think if we continue to have those conversations, we know that those conversations are only going to make us better. because we're all passionate about this work. So, but you inspect what you expect, and people know that all the decisions that we make are tough decisions. We don't wake up in the morning and say that we want to fail kids. Nobody does, right? We're all in this organization because we believe in our students, and we have to demonstrate that. But we also know that we're in a people business, and we have to hold one another accountable for the results that we expect. So I expect you as a board to hold me accountable, because I know I'm going to hold my team accountable. So I think that we clearly define what that looks like. Then everyone knows that, that we're striving to be a district of excellence. We're striving to change the culture and climate. We understand that it's not going to happen overnight, but we do understand that it will happen.
And as my colleagues ask, and in just a different way. So thank you for all of that. We're here to support you.
Thank you.
Are there any policies that you see that we can advocate for in the district, at the state, local, or national level?
Thank you. I think as we continue to develop this work, and again, a lot is going to happen after we have the visioning exercises and the strategic planning. We're going to see where some of the barriers are. We are uncovering some now. We're documenting those things. So we are listing things that we believe are getting in the way of some of the things that we know that we can do, right? So we know that educating our students today and tomorrow is very different than it was yesterday and years ago. And so we're going to have to revisit some things that we probably had in place, or we're going to have to start following some things that we already have in place, right? So I just appreciate the ongoing support, the questions that you're asking about this work, the things that you desire and always have as you sit on this board. You want to make sure that we have a top-level school district, and that we have the people in the right places to be the champion of the work. I believe we have the right people in the right places to champion this work. We have a supportive board that have allowed me and my colleagues to lead this work. So I expect you to ask those tough questions, and I expect that we're going to come up with some answers.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you, President Baker.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Seeing no further questions, does that conclude your report to the board this evening, Madam Superintendent?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Internal Auditor, good evening. You do not have anything to share with the board this evening?
I do not have a report this evening. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Treasurer, good evening.
Good evening.
Have you anything you'd like to share this evening?
I have no report, just a reminder that FAC will meet again for our monthly meeting on Wednesday the 9th, that's a week from tomorrow, 4 p.m. right here in this room. And we'll be going over some of the typical monthly financial reports, but this is scheduled to be the kind of the first presentation, or the only presentation at FAC, but the first presentation of the what we used to call the October forecast, but now we're going to call it the November forecast because we're taking advantage of that 30-day extension in time to file for some local reasons. So, but we'll be talking about the forecast a little bit.
Very good. I look forward to that. Colleagues, let's contemplate our consent agenda. Is there a motion that we adopt the consent agenda as presented? So moved. And is there a second?
Second.
Colleagues, any questions or comments on any piece of legislation contained within the consent agenda this evening? Board Member Gibbs.
Just in the interest of time. Thank you to everybody that donated to us.
Well said. Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Obviously, we appreciate every donation given to the district as they all benefit our students. So thank you very much. Is there anything else? Mr. Treasurer, I beg your pardon, Board Member Adair.
Welcoming our new members to CCS because we are doing some appointments and welcoming new staff. So again, thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Board Member Brown?
Yes, just briefly, Policy Review Committee is meeting this week on the 10th at 9 a.m. Or probably at 9 a.m. But the subject will again return to the travel policy. The subcommittee led by Jennifer Adair did a really good job, and we had a good discussion previously on it, and we'll be continuing that. So hopefully, we'll have that shaping up, for presentation here soon. The other thing I just wanted to mention, partly an observation, but oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm jumping way ahead.
You skipped ahead to
That's why
announcements?
you're moving like you were.
That's all right.
Just,
We'll come back. We'll
I
come
won't
back to you.
repeat it.
Glad to hear that. Mr. Treasurer, I would like for you to call the roll now.
Now?
Please.
Right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I thank you.
On the consent agenda.
That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Ragland.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes. Oh, I'm sorry, she's absent. Ms. Adair? President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
That motion carried.
I thank you, colleagues. Mr. Brown, have you any announcements this evening?
Thank you. The other item that I wanted to mention is more of an observation. For the last, number of months, I have perceived in a lot of places in this community that there is much greater interest and willingness to talk about difficult issues such as race and equity than I have seen at any time during my close to 30 years in Columbus. We were used to lots of open discussion in the Cleveland area, different community, different culture. But, I've been seeing more and more, and much of it is really good work. And some of it includes our business community, some of it includes others. There are more forums for discussion than I have seen before, and I've attended some of those, and just wanted to mention the Columbus African Council and Dontavius Geralds have done a great job. Now, I know that James and Talisa spoke at the one on race and education, but there are quite a few, and I've already asked Dontavius, because they usually fall on Tuesday evenings at the library, if he, with his group, would consider moving those to a different night sometimes. And he's got a whole series. The other one, and just went a couple days ago, in fact, Marilyn and I both went to Kirwan Institute for the study of race and ethnicity. They've been doing a number of dialogues, almost weekly. They're free. They're really well-attended, good groups, and good presenters. I met and had good conversation with Derek Hamilton, the new executive director. He is interested in sitting down and having further conversations toward other ways that there might be some partnership. But the program this week was on race issues and equity in schools. And I was able to raise some questions that were specific to Columbus City Schools, and there were a number of former teachers and others that have been with us in the past, and there was a really good, more direct and pointed conversation, again, than I typically see. So I think it's very promising in my mind. I know that we're going to have a director of equity to help lead some of the efforts that we need to do, and we clearly do have a lot of work to do in this area, but I think it's promising. I just wanted to pass that along, and obviously anybody is welcome to attend these programs and more. Tomorrow will be another, the MBK work.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Other announcements? I have a few I can share. So this morning, a delegation from Ghana visited Columbus Afrocentric Early College. A number of us were able to attend. You see Vice President Cole and Board Member Reyes there, and they are from Accra. And it is it is our hope that, because they are a sister city, that some of our students will be able to visit. And so that is the tall man in the all white is the chief of that city. So it's quite an honor to have him here with us. And Aqua Abba means welcome. So this is our All Seniors event. So this was an amazing event, and all the energy in the room, 2,200 or thereabouts seniors. Wow, there was a lot of energy. Look at Bob Weiler on the end there. Even he's getting excited about it. So yeah, we had a great time. So I want to thank Superintendent, all the administration who helped pull that off. Obviously, my favorite part is always interacting with the students. So we had a great time there. And similar to the convocation, bringing all those folks together, just amazing. This is the Ohio School Board Association Fall Conference Dinner. You can see a number of staff and board members there. Monica Kreidler, we nominated her, and she won for, and this is her stand-in, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Friend of Public Education, so that was very good. And our very own internal auditor, Carolyn Smith, won for Outstanding Employee, and so that was well-deserved. So thank you and congratulations, Madam Internal Auditor. And they heard I was retiring, so they thought I should get an award, and so they gave me an Outstanding Board Member Award. I want to thank all my colleagues actually for nominating me for that. Thank you very much. It was quite an honor to accept that on behalf of the entire board, really. So thank you for that. And there I am. So thank you, colleagues. And any other, oh yes, here we go, our English Learners Family Listening Tour. Who would like to talk about this? Board Member Gibbs.
Director Gillison.
Chief of Engagement.
Our Chief of Engagement.
To President Baker, Board Member Gibbs, and members of the board and the listening audience. This Saturday, October the 5th, is our second ELL listening tour. And these listening tours, it's not only an opportunity for us to hear from our English language learners, but it is also an opportunity for them to share cultural nuances and cultural norms so that we get a better aspect and an understanding of their culture, and then we can share with them what's important to our culture. This is our second one that we're having. It will be hosted at Wedgwood, and it is from 10 to 1. And the one on the 19th, October 19th, will be hosted at Johnson Park. So if you are not doing anything this Saturday, please come out and join us for our ELL, English Language Learner Listening Tour. And it is for our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilson. That is part of our CCS Family Engagement Series. So special thanks to the engagement team, and leading that work is Ms. Gillison. That's very exciting. Any other announcements, points of pride, colleagues? Board Member Gibbs?
In the interest of time, but I know I can have some very important dates to Dr. Dixon's point. It's FAFSA time, and she has set a goal in her regions. I heard it is very competitive. But since our students have a whole day tomorrow, work on your essays, work on your common application essays, work on finding some scholarships and doing all that. I had a chance to visit Trevitt and visit the classroom wing with Miss Judy Johnson was the interim principal over there, and it was just wonderful. If you get a chance to walk through, and I also want to call out Miss Betty Hill in our Unified Arts Department, the art on the walls and especially in our elementary school buildings, the way they expressed themselves were absolutely amazing. And so she was able to just walk me through the halls, amazing engagement, teachers, all type of strategies that you heard in this plan's in effect. It was absolutely an amazing visit. And so I really did enjoy being there at Trevitt. Oh,
Yes.
Innovation and Reform
Yes.
Committee meeting is next Tuesday, October 8 at 5:30 here in the Cabinet Room. So we look forward to everybody being there. And I just want to respond to a couple of things. Board Member Brown, thank you for talking about the sessions and the work, and that you said there are people who are, it seemed more willing than ever before to talk about race and equity, but we have more racism than ever before. And I don't want to overlook the fact that our students are in buildings every day, and they, in fact, are the assembly room, thank you. They are, in fact, a part of the global community, and a lot of the work and the gains that we will make and what we made in the civil rights movement was not by adults. It was by students, and was by students who stood up to say they cared, they're going to make a change, whether they were at the marching down the Pettus Bridge or they were sitting in the counters in North Carolina at Woolworth. It's students that always lead the change. And so as we endeavor to support all of this work, understand that ultimately we want to educate good people who make great decisions, are great human beings, and treat each other kind and gently and forgive each other and work together to make this society a better place. And I'm always inspired by their work, whether they're advocating for better conditions at Cobbs, as our committed student there is in the back, or they simply want us to just accept each other and love who they love. It is an inspiring work. It's a difficult time, but tough times don't laugh. Tough people do. And I hope we are making tough, resilient students who will change the world.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Any other announcements, points of pride? Mr. Vice President?
Just very quickly, that the Marching Band Invitational will also be taking place this coming Saturday at 11 a.m. at Columbus Afrocentric Early College. So please come out and enjoy that event. The Battle of the Bands is always something special.
Yes, that's a very exciting event, and I hope everyone can attend. It will be absolutely amazing, and the weather is going to be perfect. I've already checked into it. Yes, no rain this year. So seeing nothing else, I will ask the Vice President to offer a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per section 121.22G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees, and section 121.22G4 of the Ohio Revised Code to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms or conditions of their employment.
The motion, is there a second? Second. Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Adair? Yes. President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. As a reminder to students who may be listening, there is no school tomorrow. And the board will now recess into executive session. We'll adjourn from those chambers without returning to these. Have a good evening.